Chapter 256. No, no. He can't do it. Director Chen, why can't he do it? Our Yen Liang spent a lot of effort to observe the countryside for this movie. He suffered a lot. Please give him some advice. Maybe he can act it out? It's useless to give him advice. There's only one weakness: acting. Do you understand? He acted like a ruffian and acted like a peasant, but his heart was filled with resistance. What kind of Su San duo we want? From his appearance to his bones, he has to have the inferiority of a poor village child. This is created by the environment and can't be erased. So, anyone with a discerning eye can see that he's acting. He's too pretentious. There's no saving him. Chen Fengchen sent away another actor who had followed his manager to the audition. Then he vented his suppressed anger on his assistant and the rest of the crew. What kind of actor is this? Where did they come from? And they acted like shit. Why did they let you do the screening first? Did they get paid? Huh? This furious scolding caused the people below to keep quiet out of fear. They didn't even dare to breathe out loud. Actually, it wasn't entirely because of the actor. Chen Fengchen was furious because he had to juggle the post-production of Great Chu's Palace and the crew of Soldier's Assault. He was frustrated because he couldn't find the Su San duo in his heart. Other roles were fine, but if he couldn't find Su San duo, he could forget about filming this movie. Chen Fengchen thought of his backup plan. Where did Xiao Ruan go? Why hasn't there been any news from the self-recommendation videos of the new actors that I asked him to review for more than a week? Assistant Ruan didn't slack off before, but he didn't dare to be too diligent. He was afraid that if he took out the selected videos, he would be scolded by the nitpicky Chen Fengchen again. But now, even if he was unlucky, he could only bite the bullet and run over with his computer. I'm here, Director Chen. I saw that you were quite busy before. Without further ado, Chen Fengchen waved his hand and shooed Assistant Ruan away. Then, he clicked on the selected audition videos one by one. Although he was old, these high-tech products were no worse than the young people. The more he read, the darker Chen Fengchen's face became. If the actors that had been recommended by management companies and acting companies were pretending to be farmers, then in Assistant Ruan's videos, 60 to 70% of them were farmers pretending to be actors. It was obvious that they were afraid of his anger, so he went to find some real farmers to recommend themselves. This farmer's rustic nature was shown, but his acting skills were really unsightly. Chen Fengchen had walked more roads than he had eaten rice. How could Chen Fengchen not see through Assistant Ruan's thoughts? However, I'll scold him after I finish reading it. Chen Fengchen held back his anger and diligently clicked on the videos one by one. When he was almost at the end, he saw a caption that said, Actor Geng Sha, audition for Act 9, Section 7. Geng Sha, this name was rather unique. Chen Fengchen took a second glance before clicking on it. A dim-witted man appeared in the video. He wasn't tall and had dark skin, similar to the farmers in front of him. He shouldn't be too old. Although he wasn't as young as Su San duo, he should still be an immature child from the countryside. Someone outside the camera was reciting lines to him. Do you want to be a soldier, little brother? Chen Fengchen saw this child named Geng Sha timidly glance at the camera. He didn't know if he was acting or not, but he softly said, yes. Why? In the video, Geng Sha's mouth moved. He lowered his head and hesitated for a moment before saying in a very small voice, After I become a soldier, Dad won't call me son of a turtle anymore. He won't be able to kick me or hit me. I won't be able to hear what he calls me. This Mandarin that was filled with a dialect made Chen Fengchen feel very familiar. It made him stop his action of closing the video. Chen Fengchen hesitated for a moment before deciding to continue watching. On the computer screen, Geng Sha made a gesture of scratching his head. Originally, Chen Fengchen was very disgusted by this kind of meaningless action, but when Geng Sha raised his head, that ordinary and simple face, combined with this action, inadvertently moved his heart. Chen Fengchen's gaze turned serious. I graduated from junior high school, but the teacher said that I had a solid foundation and that I was really learning. Cheng Kai graduated from senior high school, but he didn't study hard. In junior high school, he kept giving me notes. Gung Sha seemed to be talking about his glorious past, and he slightly puffed out his chest. This part of the script was the key plot where Su Sanduo revealed his inner thoughts to Shi Jin. It was basically a one-man show for the main character. I'm not a coward. Chung Kai and the others tried to scare me in the graveyard, but they weren't scared. Sometimes, they looked like they were scared, but they were faking it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have stopped. It's not that I didn't dare to watch the pig being slaughtered, that was. Gung Sha tried his best to explain. It was just like when he was being mocked at the film base, he clumsily tried his best to explain to others that he wasn't stupid. In the end, because of his lack of education, he was stuck in his words. This was also Gung Sha's real experience. He completely embodied the kind of nervousness, agitation, and frustration that Su Sanduo should have. Chen Fengchen couldn't help but be attracted by Gung Sha's real performance. His left hand clenched into a fist. It's not enough. Show me more. Show me more. Chen Fengchen called out in his heart. In the scene, the narrator and Su Sanduo rehearsed a few lines. Shi Jin's words made Su Sanduo happy, so Gung Sha also revealed a smile. His smile always gave people the feeling that he didn't care about anything. His smile must have been so wide that one could almost see his gums. At my place, it's called stir-fried pork with old bamboo shoots. Gung Sha's silly smile and silly words made people see the change in him. Previously, when Gung Sha was showing off himself, he did show a sense of inferiority. But now, because of Shi Jin's kind words, Gung Sha seemed to have let down his guard. The thick sense of simplicity in his words made Chen Fengchen feel very comfortable. Especially Gung Sha's smile, it made Chen Fengchen feel that this little boy wasn't actually that ugly. His heart was beautiful. Just like Su Sanduo. He's my Su Sanduo. This thought made Chen Fengchen jump in fright. It must be known that even if a famous celebrity came to audition for his role, Chen Fengchen would still have to test a lot of things. He definitely wouldn't make a decision with just a few glances. But Gung Sha really did give him this feeling. It was a little unreliable. After all, he was a famous director. Chen Fengchen quickly calmed down. I want to meet this actor. I'll give you half a day to find him. Chen Fengchen called Assistant Ruan over. The ecstasy on his face had already disappeared as he spoke in a dignified manner. Assistant Ruan couldn't tell what was going on and didn't know what Chen Fengchen wanted to do, but he still agreed in fear. He quickly ran out to find Dabin. Hurry up and call Gung Sha over. I'll give you 2 hours. 2 hours, I want to see him. Chapter 257. Although Zhongqing was also a city with a developed entertainment industry, and the coastal area near Shanghai was filled with various agencies and entertainment companies, Zhongqing did not have a strong film and television atmosphere like Beijing or Shanghai. Guazi had only recently discovered this awkward situation. Although he wanted to continue playing small roles to increase his acting experience, he could not make bricks without straw. This film and television base did not even have a film and television base, so how could he have a chance? However, Guazi's biggest strength was that he was fat. No, he was quick-witted. No, he was thick-skinned and had a sweet mouth. Without a film and television base, he mingled in the school's film club every day, pestering the senior brothers and sisters of the film academy to impart their experience and even taking the initiative to buy drinks. At first, no one was willing to pay attention to this annoying little fatty. After 1 or 2 months, he gradually gained the recognition of others. Not only were they willing to answer his questions, but they were also willing to bring him along to play if there was a chance to film a low-budget movie. After all, this was Zhongqing's Film Academy, which was the 4th biggest star factory in China after the Beijing Film Academy, the Shanghai Drama Academy, and the Shanghai Drama Academy. The school had set up a special fund to support student films, and the Zhongqing Film Festival was supported by the Zhongqing government. The students could not afford to play in big film projects, but they had filmed many low-budget movies that cost tens of thousands of yuan. Even if they did not have a chance to appear on the big screen, they could still be used as practice for these future big directors and actors. Of course, The role of a fatty was not available in every movie. Small roles that were suitable for a newcomer like Guazhi were even rarer. However, it did not matter. When there were no suitable roles for Guazhi also worked tirelessly with the crew. He even did the work of a stage supervisor without asking for remuneration. Everyone understood. Guazhi had been influenced by his family since he was young. He was also well aware that this was just an emotional investment. The return was illusory and unreachable. However, who knew if there would be a protagonist that matched him in the future? Guazhi only hoped that when there was a chance in the future, these senior brothers and sisters would remember his name. However, before he had the chance, someone else had gone ahead of him. That night, Guazhi received a call from a public phone booth. Teacher Gua. The voice, the accent, and the way he addressed them made Guazhi feel as if it was a lifetime ago. Wasn't this his little brother, Gung Sha, who he had not contacted for a month? The last time they contacted each other, Gung Sha also ran to the phone booth to call Guazhi. Gung Sha had a cell phone that his hometown friend left for him. However, he could not bear to use it to make long-distance calls as he felt that it was expensive. The last time they contacted each other, it was because Gung Sha's fellow villagers had left the film base. The confused Gung Sha had asked Guazhi about his whereabouts. Gung Sha sighed, "I told you to call me Xiao Gui." After Guazhi finished complaining, Gung Sha, who was not clear, began to excitedly report the good news to him. Teacher Gua, let me tell you something great. I've become the main character. Gung Xia's Mandarin, which was mixed with a strong local accent, was still so familiar. However, Gung Sha with him, Gung. Main lead. That's right. A big director has taken a fancy to me, and he wants me to be the main lead in a movie. Yes, it's the big director when we were filming Great Chu Palace. Gung Sha rambled on. Guazhi was dumbfounded, and he could not help but feel a little sour in his heart. Back then, his little follower had already become the main lead, but he was still fooling around. At the same time, he felt a little powerless. He had worked very hard, but why was the realization of his dream still so far away? He had mixed feelings. However, Guazhi was not a jealous person. After Gung Sha finished speaking, he regained his original optimism and congratulated Gung Sha with a smile. Gung Sha did not want to show off to Guazhi. He called to tell Guazhi that his crew was coming to Zhongqing to film because Guazhi had said before that he was studying in Zhongqing. Although the main lead is gone, the others are still being recruited. Moreover, it's still Big Brother Bin and Director Wan who are recruiting extras. Teacher Gua, come and give it a try. I've told Director Wan, and he can let you play a special role. Gung Sha said sincerely. Really? Guazhi's interest was piqued. He could also increase his acting experience in Zhongqing's crew. Guazhi felt that this was a good opportunity. Of course it's true. Teacher Gua, sigh, why would I lie to you? Gung Sha read out a string of numbers. This is Director Ruan's phone number. Remember it. I might not be able to contact you for the time being, because the director asked me to follow the crew to the army for a week's special training tomorrow. Gung Sha's sincere nagging warmed Guazhi's heart. He also said sincerely, Gung Sha, thank you. Also, don't call me Teacher Gua, just call me Xiao Gua. I'm younger than you. What are you thanking me for, Teacher Gua? I can become the main lead now because you introduced me to Director Wan and Big Brother Bin. You also encouraged me not to give up. Otherwise, I wouldn't have this opportunity now. Gung Sha was still as honest as ever. Guazhi put down the phone and felt a little lost, but he quickly adjusted himself. His own brother had already become the main lead with his own efforts. How could he slack off? He had to continue working hard and double his efforts. Compared to the hardworking Guazhi, the hardworking Ding Xiang, and the hardworking Murphy, Yang Yi's daily life was really like a salted fish. Every day, other than 3 meals, housework, and a warm bed for his wife and children, he didn't have any big dreams. Even when writing novels, he just used the original ups and downs of the plot to torture the readers with the increasingly skilled level of breaking chapters. He didn't have any intention of increasing the speed of updating and earning more money. Today, he was listening to music and reading in the coffee shop again. He was so bored that Ding Xiang couldn't continue reading. Brother Yang, don't you have any goals? Ding Xiang couldn't help but ask him. Goals? Yang Yi pondered. It seemed like he really didn't have any. If it was in his previous life, he would have already completed the 1,000 kills and become a legend in the assassin world. Perhaps he would have wanted to become stronger, from the strength of an A-level assassin to an S-level or SS level, so that he could get rid of the shackles of the organization. But now, he was living in a peaceful city with the identity of an ordinary person, living a normal life that he dreamed of. It seemed like becoming stronger didn't have much meaning. Maybe I have a goal. I want to build the world's largest amusement park for Shi. Yang Yi really thought of one, and he said to Ding Xiang happily. Ding Xiang thought he was joking and said unhappily, "It's not that kind of impossible dream. I mean, Brother Yang, don't you have anything you want to do recently?" Wait a minute, I have to take a call. Yang Yi looked at the phone that lit up. It was Mo Xiaowan calling. He hurriedly waved his hand and picked up the phone. After a while, he hung up the phone happily and said to Ding Xiang with a smile, "Yes, what I want to do recently is to hold a birthday party for Mo Fei. It's best to surprise her and give her a big surprise." Ding Xiang helplessly rolled her eyes. "Forget it, it's better not to try to save a salted fish." Chapter 258. On Friday, after more than a week of attacks, Coming Across the Sea to See You finally reached the top of the new song best-selling list compiled by the copyright organization. Winning this battle was not easy. After all, before this, the top of the list in early November was always occupied by the A-list male singer Yi Qing's Heart's Flower Fire. Heart's Flower Fire was also a very good love song. The lyrics were catchy and romantic. It really attracted a lot of fans for Yi Qing, who took the idol singer route. But Murphy still defeated Yi Qing in the end, who let Coming Across the Sea to See You hit both men and women. After reaching the top, the people of Tianmei finally breathed a sigh of relief. Although before this song had also reached the top of the Music Power Chart, Radio Demand Chart, and other charts, but the influence of all the charts was not as good as this new song best-selling list. Behind it sat a gigantic copyright organization. It had been publicized in all the major music publications and websites, so its influence was obvious. "Congratulations, Murphy sister. Amazing, Fei sister, come on. I believe in you, Fei sister, waiting for you to return to the top." Murphy was now on the verge of returning to being an A-list singer. When she came back in the afternoon, the people in the company, whether it was innocent employees or other stars with a certain competitive relationship, all expressed their congratulations to her. Mo Xiaowan, who was following behind, looked at the latter's hypocritical smiling faces. It was completely different from when Murphy was down and out. She felt a burst of nausea. "Thank you." Murphy's performance was okay. Although she also knew the faces of these people, after all, she did not hit a smiling face. Murphy's personality was not as extreme as Mo Xiaojuan's, so she also responded indifferently. "Fei sister, Ling sister wants you to go up." At this time, Niu Meiling's assistant hurried down the stairs and just happened to meet them, so she quickly explained. "Niu Meiling wanted to find them again? Is there something wrong again?" Mo Xiaowan secretly guessed. She followed Murphy into Niu Meiling's company. However, this time, it was Mo Xiaowan who measured the heart of a villain with the heart of a villain. "Murphy, you're here? Come, take a seat." Just like 5 years ago, Niu Meiling was full of smiles and stood up to greet Murphy enthusiastically. She even personally poured water for Murphy. "Thank you, Sister Ling." Murphy was still as cold as ever in front of outsiders. No one could tell if her expression was one of gratitude or something else. Niu Meiling didn't care. She smiled and said, "Murphy, have you been busy recently?" "Well, it's okay." Mo Fei nodded lightly. "How is that okay?" "Recently, Sister Fei has been working overtime. It's not like you don't know that her song is very popular now. The whole company wants to strike while the iron is hot and release the album as soon as possible, so Sister Faye is often so busy that she doesn't even have time to go to the bathroom. Mo Xiaowan complained for Mo Faye. That was the truth. After all, the entertainment industry developed very well under the foundation of perfect copyright protection. Especially the competition between singers was particularly fierce. The music industry could be said to be changing with each passing day. Don't look at how the song, Coming Across the Sea to See You, was very popular now. Fans were calling for the album to be released as soon as possible. However, if Murphy kept dragging it out, the fans would lose patience and the speed of loss would not be slower than the speed of gathering. The people of Tianmei didn't know how long this song would be popular. A week. A month. 2 months. It was hard to say. Moreover, Coming Across the Sea to See You was a new force to be reckoned with. It was easy to attract the hatred of competitors. If others used some tricks, the song's popularity might dissipate faster. Therefore, the speed of the album recording and MV shooting was increased. Tianmei's approach was not to be criticized. However, Murphy had to work a lot harder. Now, she had to work overtime at night. The planning department mentioned this to me. Niu Meiling smiled. So, didn't I find a way for you? What way? Mo Xiaowan asked curiously. On November 18th, Murphy will go to Shanghai to record Jixin Interview. Niu Meiling said. I've already asked someone to free up the schedule for you. This program is very important. I think Murphy and Xiaowan also understand that. You must be prepared. Also, you have to bring a new song to sing. Jixin Interview was the program that Chan Yijie went to record. This program was not easy to get on. Not to mention the influence of Shanghai TV station, this program was a level higher than Fast Music. Niu Meiling was able to get Luo Xian's invitation. It seemed that she had put in some effort and used her connections. Moreover, this time, Mo Fei didn't need to be a green leaf to complement the red flower, because there would only be one guest in each episode of Jixin Interview. If Mo Fei went, she would be the only red flower. Thank you, Sister Ling. Murphy was stunned for a moment and said gratefully. You don't have to thank me. Niu Meiling smiled. If your song can sell well, the company will also profit. Speaking of which, Niu Meiling's heart was still bleeding. If she could trick Murphy into signing another contract, Tianmei would earn several times more money than it did now. However, Niu Meiling hid it very well. She reminded her with concern, the program will be recorded on November 18th and broadcast on the first Friday of December. You have to go back and think about which song to use for this program. Murphy nodded solemnly. It was also because Murphy's album had 12 songs that all of them were top quality that they could use the price of exposing a few songs in advance to earn popularity. If it was someone who was not at Murphy's level and still had to use this method, they would die miserably. Because if they took out bad songs to expose, the effect of the exposure would be almost zero. If it caused the fans to dislike it, it might even have the opposite effect. And if they used the title song to promote it, the fans might not buy the album after buying the CD of the single. The loss would not make up for the loss. Stimulated by his brother suddenly becoming the protagonist, Guozi worked even harder on the set of his senior brothers and sisters. However, he did not have any plans this afternoon, so he strolled to the coffee shop on the corner. When he arrived at the shop, Guozi did not go directly to Ding Xiang to buy cupcakes as usual. Instead, he looked straight at Yang Yi, who was gluing something to his exclusive booth. There was a struggle in the depths of his eyes. Geng Sha told Guozi that the TV series he was going to shoot was called Soldier's Assault. How could Guozi not be able to connect Yang Yi's book? Since it was a book authorized by Yang Yi, it was obvious that it was better to look for Yang Yi than to look for Brother Dabin and Assistant Ruan. The first two people could only give Guozi a cameo role. At most, they would be special cameos with a few lines. If he looked for Yang Yi might even help him out on account of their relationship. Although Yang Yi did not agree when he was joking, Guozi knew Yang Yi's character. If he really put down his face and begged, Yang Yi would still help him. However, Gua Ziyi could not get past his own hurdle. If it was not because of his own efforts to fight for the role he deserved, then what was the point of taking this path? If he wanted to rely on others to achieve success, Gua Ziyi might as well listen to his family's arrangements and study a good major. Then, he could enter politics after graduation. With his family's connections, it would not be a problem for him to have a meteoric rise. However, Gua Ziyi was a person with dreams. How can I tarnish my own dreams? Gua Ziyi struggled for a while and suddenly realized. This path, I want to walk it myself. I don't rely on Brother Yang, I don't rely on my family, I don't rely on anyone. Gua Ziyi strengthened his belief and clenched his fist. What are you doing? You want to fight with me? Yang Yi raised his head and looked at him with a smile as he asked. Gua Ziyi was sweating profusely. He still remembered Yang Yifei's heroic appearance when he kicked the little wild boar to death. He quickly waved his hand and said in embarrassment, How could that be, Big Brother Yang? I just miss you. I came to see you. Yo, are you sure you missed Brother Yang and not the cake in the shop? Ding Xiang was at the side. She covered her mouth and snickered, mercilessly exposing him. Really, I came to find Brother Yang for something. Look, I didn't even look at your cake. Gua Ziyi said angrily. What are you looking for me for? Yang Yi asked again. Chapter 259. That's right. What was the reason for looking for Yang Yi? Gua Ziyi's mind was active. Looking at the small wooden house on Yang Yi's table, he had an idea and said, Gift? Isn't Sister Murphy's birthday coming up? I can't go next Wednesday night, so I came to inform you. But I'll send the gift. Please pass it to Sister Murphy. Can't go. Why? Didn't we agree to celebrate Sister Murphy's birthday together? Ding Xiang asked, puzzled. Yang Yi also frowned. He had specially invited Gua Ziyi and Ding Xiang to make Murphy's birthday more lively. Sister Ding Xiang, have you forgotten? Didn't the dean inform us this morning that all the freshmen and sophomores in our college have to attend the dean's lecture at the Zhongqing Great Hall next Wednesday? Gua Ziyi said helplessly. Not only me, you have to go too. Ding Xiang was stunned. She hurriedly took out her phone and looked at the message she had ignored in the morning. The college will arrange for a bus to pick up all the students. All the students will go and return together. The counselor will be responsible for counting the number of students. Those who are absent will have their time deducted. Really? Ding Xiang looked at Yang Yi with a troubled expression. This was a direct administrative order from the college. Although it was ridiculous, for the dean's sake, they had to pull in students to make up the numbers. She had to go. It's okay. Just listen to the college's arrangements. I'll convey your thoughts to Murphy. Yang Yi smiled and said calmly. Of course, he still felt regretful, but he wouldn't blame his two friends because of the college's request. Brother Yang, don't worry. I'll buy a big gift for Sister Murphy later. Gua Ziyi said, patting his chest. Ziyi, take me with you. Help me. I don't know how to buy a gift. Ding Xiang made up her mind and pleaded with Gua Ziyi. Yo, it's rare that Sister Ding Xiang wants to go shopping with me. Sure, I'm just helping you pick out a gift. Let's go, let's pack up and close the door. Let's go. Gua Ziyi said excitedly. But I have to open the restaurant in the evening. Ding Xiang remembered. Yang Yi couldn't help laughing. He said, My shop's opening hours are very casual. You can go if you want. However, I don't care about Gua Ziyi's gift. Ding Xiang, your gift is not allowed to exceed 100 yuan, do you hear me? Gua Ziyi, you're responsible for supervising her for me. Bring back the receipt and show it to me. I don't want anything over 100 yuan, and Gua Ziyi, you have to compensate Ding Xiang. Gua Ziyi's eyes lit up. He glanced at Sister Ding Xiang and chuckled. Understood. I promise to supervise Sister Ding Xiang well. Ding Xiang rolled her eyes at him unhappily. In the evening, A pair of figures appeared on the pedestrian street of the commercial road in Tingshan district. No matter how you looked at them, they did not match. The man was white and fat, while the woman was dark and thin. Of course, it was hard to tell how dark Ding Xiang was at night. However, the combination of fat and thin still attracted a lot of strange gazes. Where are we going to buy gifts? Ding Xiang looked around curiously and asked. In fact, Ding Xiang had been here before. However, she was not here to shop. Instead, she was here in the hottest part of the summer, wearing a big doll costume and handing out flyers. She was about to get a heat stroke. How could she have the energy and spare money to go shopping? There are a few boutiques in front of Wan Le Fair. It's the best place to buy gifts. Guazi was not on the ground all day. He took Ding Xiang to the place with ease. Ding Xiang, who had not seen much of the bustling world, followed Guazi into a boutique. As soon as she entered the door, she was stunned by the dazzling array of goods on the shelves. There are so many things. Ding Xiang suddenly felt a little suffocated, especially those exquisite trinkets, which made her flustered. For a moment, Ding Xiang had some misconceptions. She felt that the heirlooms, necklaces, chest ornaments, bracelets, and so on that her grandmother had hidden and said that she would get married grandly in the future were not as beautiful as these trinkets. Of course, Ding Xiang was not stupid. She still knew what was good and what was bad. The trinkets that her grandmother had left for her were all made of real silver. They had been passed down for generations. How could these trinkets made of plastic compare to their value? However, silver trinkets would become dirty after all. If they were not washed by the Miao family's silversmiths, they would indeed not look good. Women were creatures who loved beauty. Seeing these beautiful trinkets in front of her, even Ding Xiang would inevitably be moved. Ding Xiang pinched the 200 yuan in her trouser pocket. She was thinking about whether it was worth it to buy these trinkets that cost only a few dozen yuan. But thinking of her grandmother at home, even if she now had a monthly income of 6,000 yuan, Ding Xiang was still reluctant to spend this money to buy herself a delicate, crystal hairpin. Guazi was also looking for a gift. Seeing that Ding Xiang did not follow, he went back. He glanced at the things Ding Xiang was looking at and said, "Sister Ding Xiang, you are not thinking of buying these for Sister Murphy, are you? This gift is not good." Guazi looked around and lowered his voice to Ding Xiang. Sister Murphy is a big star. All the jewelry she wears, including the clothes she wears, are sponsored. She can't wear anything from other brands. What's more, this hairpin is a little low grade. Ding Xiang pursed her lips, but did not say anything. She just pushed Guazi and motioned him to go inside. "What gift do you think I should buy for Sister Murphy?" Ding Xiang looked for a while, but still did not know. There were expensive things in the boutique, so expensive that Ding Xiang was a little speechless. But Ding Xiang was not sure about the cheap things, so she could only ask Guazi for help. Guazi had already picked a gift. It was a kitten puppet that could play drums. Because of the complicated mechanism, the price was naturally not cheap. It was more than 500 yuan. Your budget is within 100 yuan. Guazi touched his chin and took Ding Xiang to the decoration area. After looking for a while, he took out a crystal ball with a simple base. "How about this?" It was not expensive, only 55 yuan. Guazi had fully considered Yang Yi's restrictions and Ding Xiang's pocket. "This?" Ding Xiang took it and somewhat clumsily fiddled with it. "Turn it on here." Guazi reached under the base and turned on the switch. Suddenly, the small light under the base lit up, shining the crystal ball. Guazi took it again and shook it. The white snowflakes inside slowly fluttered, creating a romantic atmosphere. And inside the crystal ball, a man and a woman were hugging and kissing each other in this romantic atmosphere. "This looks pretty good." Ding Xiang felt that she liked it a little. "The main thing is that the meaning is good. I heard that Brother Yang and Sister Murphy have not registered their marriage. You can make a small card and write a blessing, wishing Sister Murphy and Brother Yang to grow old together and live happily ever after. I guarantee that Sister Murphy will love this gift of yours." Guazi laughed. Brother Yang and sister Murphy have not registered their marriage? Ding Xiang was shocked. She did not dare to believe it. Those two already had a child. It's normal, celebrities. It's normal to have a secret marriage. Guazi waved his hand indifferently. Then when you become a big actor in the future, will you also have a secret marriage? Ding Xiang keenly grasped Guazi's loophole and asked. Guazi was a little embarrassed. How can I have a secret marriage? If I meet a girl that I like, I promise to announce to the world that I love her and let the world witness our happiness. Guazi felt that men should not be afraid. Then I'll buy this gift. Ding Xiang completely ignored his lofty words. Holding the crystal ball, she hesitated for a moment and made up her mind. Chapter 260. Yesterday, you went to Harbor City. How was the talk with Qianxiang and Golden Age? Fu Jun asked the two people in charge of his supplier department when he came to the meeting early in the morning. After communicating with Yang Yi last time, Fu Jun put down his previous achievements and once again immersed himself in the ever-changing tide of the internet. Opening up new sales channels in the recording industry was not a small challenge. Not only did Fu Jun send out his capable subordinates, but he also personally dealt with various record companies and distributors. Qianxiang's Mao Su's attitude was average, but their president who said that he hoped to talk to you face to face. I think there is still a glimmer of hope. President Chui of Golden Age basically agreed to our conditions, but the person in charge of the negotiation with Golden Age hesitated and said, President Chui also asked about one thing. They are very optimistic about the development of Sahara and asked if you want financing. Fu Jun frowned slightly. Although he did not need financing for the time being, because Sahara's profitability was not bad at the moment, Fu Jun still had to think about this issue seriously. The development of Sahara's online shopping mall happened to be in the golden period. It was on the fast track of development. In addition, the online banking had just been released, so competitors had not noticed this cake yet. It could develop steadily. However, if he did not seize this opportunity to quickly occupy market share and establish a competitive advantage, when competitors reacted, Sahara's online shopping mall would fall into a frenzy of competition and would not have the time to expand. Obviously, Sahara's development was not fast enough, and this speed was also limited by the investment of funds. The internet industry was a world where the speed of burning money was the fastest. However, if he wanted financing, Fu Jun had to consider whether the remaining shares in his hands were enough for him to control the company. At the moment, it was 51%, which was a very embarrassing number. If he had more shares in his hands, Fu Jun would definitely not hesitate to take out some financing now. Back then, he had sold 49% of his shares to Yang Yi for 5 million. Now, no matter how he looked at it, it was a losing deal. Of course, Fu Jun was still very clear-headed and was not blinded by money. He also knew that if Yang Yi had not pointed out these paths for him, his original Sahara online bookstore would still be in a half-dead state. Okay, I know about this. I'll discuss it with Director Yang later. Fu Jun said, there's also President Hu from Qianxiang. Help me make an appointment with him on Friday. I'll go to Harbor City to meet with President Hu. Yes, sir. His subordinates all nodded, then quickly packed up their notebooks and left. Sahara was on the fast track. All of them had to buck up and keep up with the company's development. Otherwise, when the company expanded in the future, they were not capable enough. Fu Jun would also harden his heart and hire outside executives. Fu Jun, on the other hand, was free now. He turned on his laptop excitedly and logged into the Weibo webpage to browse. Ever since Yang Yi introduced micro-broadcasting to him, Fu Jun not only promoted it in the company, but he also promoted it to some of his clients. He also became addicted to micro-broadcasting. Although micro-broadcasting did not have a lot of content provided by VIPs and did not have any particularly interesting functions, Fu Jun and many white-collar workers who worked in front of the computer were fascinated by the fact that they could check the status of the people they followed. On the one hand, micro-broadcasting could kill some of their boring spare time at work. On the other hand, it could also satisfy their abnormal desire to peep. They wanted to see what others were doing and what their status was today. Did they go to a restaurant? Or did they kneel on the keyboard? Or did they meet some weird people who did not even give them 100 yuan? Peeping in front of the computer was just like gossiping. It was addictive. Fu Jun just thought of Yang Yi, so he clicked on Shi's chef in the list of people he followed. He opened Yang Yi's homepage to see what interesting things this guy's daughter had done in kindergarten today, or what delicious food Yang Yi made. Yang Yi's micro-broadcasting was always about these things. He was a complete daughter lover. Seeing that he was still playing there, the secretary came over and poured some tea for him. Xiao Hong, hey, let me ask you a question. Do you usually play micro-broadcasting? Fu Jun suddenly asked, startling the little secretary. Yes, boss. After you recommended it, I registered. Now the little secretary was quick to speak and said it out loud. But after saying it, she became nervous. She was afraid that Fu Jun would want to share micro-broadcasting with her. There were some comments about her boss that had not been deleted yet. However, fortunately, Fu Jun did not have this idea. He knew the principle of being a boss well. He did not integrate into the circle of his employees and gave them some space. Then tell me, what's so interesting about micro-broadcasting? Fu Jun excitedly took out an exchange voucher from his pocket and said, say something new. If it's good, boss will reward you with a seafood buffet. The little secretary cheered up and thought carefully. Then she said, I think micro-broadcasting is actually similar to blogging. But it's more interesting than blogging because it has a word limit. We send a micro-broadcasting message. It's almost the same as sending a text message. Well, go on. Fu Jun nodded thoughtfully. After all, we're not writers. No one can often write a long article and post it on a blog. And like my own blog, I can't even open it once a year. Not to mention writing, just seeing such a long article gives me a headache. The little secretary said, embarrassed, and stuck out her tongue, and said, Of course, boss, I'm not saying that I can't read your proposal. Fu Jun waved his hand and did not care. It's true that I don't like blogs, but Weibo is much better. Sometimes, I can just write a few sentences and post it. There's no need to consider the length or literary talent. It's like I can say whatever I want to say in my heart. Anyway, I think my friends like it very much after I recommended it to them. The little secretary finished. Very good, very observant. Go, let's go and have a big meal. Fu Jun smiled and handed over the exchange voucher. The benefits that the little secretary talked about were indeed things that Fu Jun had not thought of before. He only considered the advantages in reading, but he did not expect that he would have so many advantages in writing. Micro-broadcasting users are not that many now, but the growth rate is considerable. After Fu Jun sent the happy little secretary away, he secretly thought, if there are enough users and the user's viscosity is enough, advertising on micro-broadcasting will be a very good choice. In that case, micro-broadcasting's development potential was also great. Chapter 261. Wednesday finally arrived. After sending Murphy to work and Shishi to school, Yang Yi began to get busy. First, he went to find Xiao Ai and took the birthday gift that Mo Xiaowan had secretly sent to Murphy from her fans. Then, he took out the flowers, ribbons, flags, and other supplies that he had bought before and began to decorate the living room at home. This was not easy. Although the venue was smaller than the one for Shishi's birthday, Yang Yi still spent the whole morning to complete 60% of his plan. The remaining 40% had to be done at night because the balloons would leak if they were placed too early. The curvy ribbons hanging from the sky attracted the attention of Xiao Guai and the others. These little fellows had been causing trouble when Yang Yi had started to set them up. Although the 5-month-old British Shorthairs were still a little childish, their limbs and muscles had already developed very well. Even the smallest of them, Xiao Guai, could jump onto a high sofa with a sudden leap. So, they excitedly messed with the ribbons that Yang Yi put aside. When Yang Yi pulled out a ribbon and was about to hang it up, they pounced on him and slapped the tail of the ribbon. They were so excited that they looked like Shi who was about to go to the amusement park. Fortunately, Yang Yi was no longer a newbie like when he had just started raising cats. He skillfully took out a few catmint dolls and successfully diverted the attention of the three little guys. However, in the afternoon, Yang Yi went to get the cake and was not at home. They were brave enough to jump onto the sofa, stand on the armrest, and slap the ribbons that were hanging down. They couldn't grab it either, but they swatted the ribbon up with their claws. Then, the three of them squatted there and looked up. Their heads swayed, and they seemed to be having a lot of fun. Recently, it was normal for Murphy to work overtime at night. Mo Xiaowan took on the responsibility of sending her home. Yang Yi picked up Shi and went straight home. Today is Mom's birthday. Daddy bought a big cake for Mommy. When Yang Yi went upstairs, he said to the little girl, "What gift are you going to prepare for Mommy?" After a moment of surprise, the little girl began to worry. She didn't know what gift to prepare. "Papa, can I give my little Red Riding Hood to Mom?" After struggling for a while, the little girl ran over and tugged at her father's clothes while he was shooting balloons. She pouted and said reluctantly, "I'm sorry." She treasured her doll a lot. Every night, she needed Big Bear Cub to accompany her to sleep. She could only fall asleep with Little Red Riding Hood in her arms. No one else was allowed to touch her. "Why did you give me that gift? Mummy won't want your favorite thing." Yang Yi put down the balloon and rubbed the little girl's head lovingly. "Then what should we do?" She looked at her father for help. Her big eyes looked pitiful as she said, "I don't even know what birthday present to buy." "You can draw a picture for Mommy. She will definitely like it," Yang Yi said with a smile. She pouted and was still not satisfied. Then what should I draw?" "Draw whatever you want. Use your imagination to your heart's content." Yang Yi waved his hand and said boldly, "No matter what you draw, Daddy will help you polish it. It will be very beautiful." Yang Yi had played this game with Shi before. The little girl nodded happily. Then she quickly ran to find her colored crayons and drawing paper. She began to prepare a birthday present for her mother on the small desk. Almost at the same time, a jeep drove into the Jiangnan military camp on the outskirts of Jiangqing City and stopped in front of the military guest house. Before the people in the car got out, there were already several people waiting outside the guest house. There was a big banner hanging at the door of the military guest house. "Welcome to the Military Grand Competition Special Forces Champion for Guidance." However, due to the strict discipline of the military, although there was a big banner hanging, no one was watching. "This is the place where Yang Yi gave a speech?" Shen Sinyu's lazy voice was heard before she got out of the car. "Shen Sinyu, pay attention to the situation." Luo Zongxing's strict voice was heard. The car door opened. Other than the driver, 3 figures carrying luggage came out one after another. From their appearance, they looked like ordinary soldiers. However, they exuded a strong aura. Why was it that when one got close to them, one would feel like they had met a wolf in the jungle? The special forces of the Jiangnan military camp, Viper's men, came up to them. Among them were the Captain Old Li and Gua Debeo, who had fought with Shen Sinyu. "Welcome, welcome. I've been waiting for you for so long, although it is because of Yang Yi." Old Li smiled and came over to shake hands with Luo Zongxing. "Don't mention it. We are also very honored to be able to communicate with Viper. We are brothers in the same unit, so we can learn and improve together." Luo Zongxing was, after all, the captain. While the two of them were exchanging greetings, Shen Sinyu and Gua Debeo did not beat around the bush. The two of them who had fought before appreciated each other and gave each other a fierce bear hug. "Shen Sinyu, I lost to you last time. After coming back, I trained for a month. When can we fight again?" Gua Debeo's face was filled with excitement. He could not wait to fight with Shen Sinyu in the martial arts field. "Any time. But no matter how much you train, you will still be defeated by me." Although Shen Sinyu had a good relationship with Gua Debeo, her mouth was unforgiving. "Humph. Let's talk about it after the fight." Gua Debeo was not convinced. "But now is not the time. The leaders are waiting upstairs to welcome you guys." Isn't it just drinking? I'm good at this. Shen Xinyu patted her chest. Hey, you guys came together. Who is that? I don't think I saw him last time. Gua de Bao pushed Shan Xinyu and pointed at the small man standing behind them like an invisible person. He was not a small man, about 1.7 meters. But compared to Shan Xinyu and Gua de Bao, who were 1.8 meters tall, his body was a little petite. Moreover, his personality was very introverted and quiet, unlike Shan Xinyu, who liked to be noisy. He stayed behind last time and did not go to the competition. But you definitely know his name. Have you heard of the Southwest's #1 sniper? Shen Xinyu gave a thumbs up and said proudly for her brother. The Southwest's #1 sniper, Yu Xiaotian? The Yu Xiaotian who won the international sniper competition? Gua de Bao, of course, had heard of him. He was shocked and looked at the other person seriously. Of course, winning the competition was not a big deal. Yu Xiaotian was best at providing cover for his teammates on the battlefield. His elusive and accurate bullets could appear at any time to harvest the opponent's soul. Not only did he suppress the opponent's firepower, but he also greatly protected the safety of his teammates during a firefight. But these battle wolves were rarely promoted by Yu Xiaotian. Everyone knew that he was the Southwest's #1 sniper because he won a big award. Feeling Gua de Bao's gaze, Yu Xiaotian turned his head and smiled at Gua de Bao. But his eagle-like eyes still made Gua de Bao shudder. The leader's welcoming party and Viper's people accompanied them. The 3 Battle Wolves members drank a lot and were supported back to the guest house in a drunken state. After taking a shower and lying on the bed, Shan Xinyu sobered up a little. Master Luo, when are we going to see Yang Yi? Shan Xinyu looked at Luo Zongxing on the bed next to hers and asked. Yu Xiaotian also turned around and looked at them intently. See Yang Yi, there's no rush. Luo Zongxing drank more than the 2 of them and was still a little slurred, but he was sober. Since you're here for an exchange, you have to do your job well. There will be a day off. Oh. Chapter 262. Mo Fei was so busy that she even forgot about her birthday. So today, she still didn't get home until 8:30. Mo Xiaowan drove her downstairs. After getting out of the car, Murphy wanted to say goodbye to Mo Xiaowan, but she saw Mo Xiaowan turn off the engine and get out of the car. Xiaowan, you can just drop me off here. Why are you still sending me upstairs? We're already at the door. It's safe. Murphy said in amusement. Mo Xiaowan sent out the text message she had prepared a long time ago, then hid the phone in her hand. She chuckled and said, Sis, are you in such a hurry to chase me away so that you can spend some time alone with brother-in-law? Why do you always talk about this? Murphy's face was a little red. She said angrily, You think about this every day. Why don't you hurry up and find a boyfriend? What's so good about men? Hey, I don't want to talk about it. I came down because I need to go to the toilet. Sis, hurry up and take me to the toilet. Mo Xiaowan grabbed Murphy's hand and shouted. The nearest toilet was the one in the coffee shop, but Ding Xiang was dragged away to be a spectator today. The coffee shop was not open, so Murphy took Mo Xiaowan upstairs. Why is there no one at home? Murphy walked up the stairs and saw that it was dark and quiet upstairs. She was a little surprised. Hurry up and turn on the lights. Sis, I can't see anything. It's so creepy. Mo Xiaowan shouted from behind. She deliberately raised her voice, but Murphy did not notice that something was wrong. She thought that the girl was afraid. I'll turn on the lights. Murphy did not suspect anything. She felt the switch on the dark wall with ease and turned it on. Pa! As the light flashed, a louder sound suddenly came from behind Murphy. Ah! It was so sudden that Murphy jumped in fright. She panicked and quickly grabbed Mo Xiaojuan's arm. Happy birthday! Happy birthday, Mom! Following Yang Yi's blessings were Shi's cheerful cries. The little girl had been hiding with her father on the sofa, covering her mouth. She couldn't hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. After Murphy's eyes adjust a little, she can clearly see the colorful pieces of paper flying in the air. She also sees the culprit in Yang Yi's hand, the empty canister of fireworks, and her daughter who is jumping excitedly and laughing with her face red. Although she understood what was going on, Murphy was still in a state of shock. She turned to look at Mo Xiaowan. Sure enough, that lass was laughing secretly. Surprise! Mo Xiaowan waved her arms exaggeratedly and said to Murphy with a grin, "Sis, happy birthday." No wonder she wanted to follow him. Murphy rolled her eyes. You guys actually kept me in the dark. And Mo Xiaowan, you guys didn't even tell me it was my birthday. It's to give you a surprise. We prepared for more than a week. In order to keep it a secret, we didn't dare to tell Shi before today. Yang Yi walked up and put a birthday crown on Murphy's head. You scared me. You have to compensate me. Murphy pouted and hammered Yang Yi's chest with her little fist. Okay, I'll compensate you. You can say whatever you want today. Yang Yi smiled gently. Murphy hasn't thought of how to get Yang Yi to compensate her. She first put this bad guy aside and let him clean up the shredded paper on the floor. She was now entangled by Shi. The little girl excitedly came over with her present. Mama, I prepared a birthday present for you. She was wearing a little hat that looked like an ice cream cone. She looked very cute. She handed over her present, and her big eyes showed some nervousness and expectation. You must like it. Although her father had touched up her present, written a line of words, and helped her frame it with cardboard and put it in a gift box, she was still not very confident. Shi's birthday present for Mom? As long as it's from Shi, no matter what it is, Mom will like it. Murphy was very happy. After all, it was the first birthday present from Shi. She treasured it and couldn't bear to open it. However, Mo Xiaowan, who liked to watch the fun, egged her on. Open it and see. She thought that her mother didn't know how to open it. She kindly reached out her little hand to help untie the ribbon. It's opened like this. Pull it. The present was opened. There was a painting in the box. Murphy was a little surprised. She thought that the little girl should have gone out with her father to buy a present in such a hurry. However, it was expected. Shi's drawing skills were taught by her father. In the painting, the little girl drew a lot of flowers, and then there was a long river with 3 people walking next to it. Although it was not concrete, it was not difficult for Mo Fei to guess that Cici was drawing their family of 3. Yang Yi didn't teach Shi those detailed drawing skills now because he didn't want to stifle his daughter's imagination. However, he taught Shi some tricks of composition so that Shi could better express the artistic conception she wanted to express. This is Shi, this is Mom, and this is Papa. The little girl came over and introduced them. And this is us taking a walk, holding hands. It's beautiful, Murphy said sincerely. Mom likes this birthday present very much. Really? She held her little hands in surprise and looked at her mother. Of course. Murphy put the painting aside, picked up the little girl, and kissed her fragrant little face. Hee. The little girl laughed with satisfaction. Mo Xiaowan picked up the painting and looked at it carefully. She made a fuss and shouted, "Wow, there's a poem on it. It's the beautiful scenery of Jiangnan. It's the season of falling flowers." Mo Xiaowan said as she sighed with emotion. This must be written by brother-in-law. The words are not bad, and the poem is also quite suitable for the scenery. It's the season of falling flowers. It's the season of falling flowers. You don't study when you're studying. When is the season of falling flowers called autumn? Murphy corrected. The season of falling flowers usually refers to the end of spring. The reason why Murphy could make such a clear judgment was because she also contacted Yang Yi. When they met again, it was the end of spring and the beginning of summer. I don't care. Anyway, this poem written by brother-in-law is very good. It's especially suitable for this painting. Mo Xiaowan shouted. Murphy had a lot of presents. One side was piled with gifts from fans, and the other side was gifts from Mo Shaowan, Ding Xiang, Guazi, and the others. Yang Yi's gift was a little big, so it was first hidden in the study. Ding Xiang and Guazi were pulled away by the school to attend a lecture, so they can't come. They asked me to pass on their blessings to you, Yang Yi said as he watched Murphy opening the gifts from fans. The gifts from the hardcore fans were basically perfume, cosmetics, or beautiful clothes. They couldn't attract Shi's attention. The little girl looked at them for a while and felt bored. She went to pester her father to take out a cake to eat. Wait a moment, your mother still has to blow out the candles. Yang Yi comforted the little girl. Gotcha. Mo Shaowan took a picture of Murphy sitting on the carpet opening the gift. What are you doing? Murphy didn't understand. She asked in astonishment as she opened the gift. Taking a picture. When we get back, I'll send you micro-broadcasting. Mo Shaowan said excitedly. After Yang Yi taught her how to register for Murphy's micro-broadcasting, she threw it to Mo Shaowan. She rarely played with it. On the other hand, Mo Shaowan was very interested and often updated Murphy's micro-broadcasting. Of course, Mo Shaowan still knew that big stars needed to keep a distance from their fans to maintain a sense of mystery. So, she basically posted Murphy's schedule and work status. The photo she took today was the only photo of Murphy's daily life. It was mainly to thank the fans who congratulated Murphy on her birthday. Right now, there weren't many people using micro-broadcasting, but Mo Shaowan liked to see the number of fans growing day by day. It was like watching Murphy grow step by step. Yang Yi looked at it and shook his head. He stood up and went to get the cake and candles. However, Murphy didn't plan to open all the gifts. She picked out a few cosmetics and beautiful clothes. Then, she said to Mo Shaowan, I'll keep these and give them to Ding Xiang. You can share the rest with the people in the company. Okay. Mo Shaowan agreed without hesitation. This wasn't the first time. When stars received gifts from fans, they basically handled it this way. Chapter 263. She opened the remaining 3 presents, leaving Yang Yi's present as a suspense. She was about to enter the most important part of the birthday party, which was also the part that Shishi looked forward to the most, blowing out the candles and eating the cake. Turn off the lights, quickly turn off the lights. The little girl giggled and ran back from the kitchen early. She squeezed into her mother's arms and ordered Mo Shaowan. The lights dimmed, leaving only a few small lights on. Yang Yi pushed the cake on a small cart and slowly walked out of the kitchen. There were 31 candles on the cake, and the bright candlelight lit up the surroundings. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. Yang Yi was still singing the birthday song as he walked to Murphy. Murphy looked at so many candles, then raised her head and pursed her lips as she stared at Yang Yi. However, it was a little dark, so he couldn't see the expression on her face. Wow, so many candles. Mom, I want to blow them with you. She gestured with her small hands. Just a little, okay? Of course, Mom can't blow out so many candles at once. She, come and blow them with Mom. Murphy couldn't help but complain, your papa is really too much. Why did he put so many candles? 3 is enough. Won't you be 31 years old after this birthday? Why only 3 candles? Yang Yi said stupidly, oh, 3 candles make sense. But she has 4 candles, and you only have 3 candles. Doesn't that make you look younger than she? Murphy rolled her eyes and sighed helplessly. It was really impossible to communicate with a straight man. At a certain age, which woman didn't care about her age? This bastard didn't even have any sense to say it out loud. Really, tonight, no, she wouldn't sleep with him for the rest of the week. She thought that her mom had already started sighing. The little girl anxiously pulled her mother and said, Mom, no, you haven't made a wish yet. You have to make a wish before you can blow out the candle. Yes, make a wish. Mo Shaowan was waiting for the lights to be turned on. She called out from afar, Sis, you have to make that wish so that your album will go platinum in the future. Murphy ignored her. She listened to her daughter's words and cupped her fists. She closed her eyes and began to make a wish. What should I wish for? If it were a few months ago, Murphy would have made 2 wishes. One was for Shi to grow up healthily and happily, and the other was for her music career to be smooth sailing without too much trouble. However, now that she had Yang Yi standing behind her and supporting her, Murphy was more confident in her future. Thus, Murphy wanted to change her second wish. Thank God for letting me meet a man who loves me so much, dotes on me, and supports me. I hope that Yang Yi will always be healthy and happy. Finally, please allow me to be a little greedy and make a third wish. I hope that my love with Yang Yi will always be like this. I don't ask for a better or happier life. I just hope that there will never be any changes and that we will be blissful just like this. Murphy closed her eyes and made a wish very seriously. It took a long time. She was a little anxious from waiting. The little girl secretly poked at the cake and stuck out her little tongue to lick the cream on her fingers. It was cold, sweet, and super delicious. She wanted to eat it quickly. Fortunately, Murphy finished making her wish in time and blew out the candles with her. Poof, poof. Amidst the sound of Shi's saliva, Murphy blew out the candles a few times before she finally blew out all the candles. Mo Shaowan could finally turn on the lights. The next step was to cut the cake and eat it. The little girl couldn't wait to push out her little desk and sat on it, asking her mother to bring it to her. Originally, they were going to eat the cake on the coffee table, but she wasn't tall enough. She couldn't reach it sitting down, and it was difficult to eat it standing up. Mo Shaowan sat on the carpet casually, not caring about her image at all. Like she ate the cake until her nose was stained with cream. Brother-in-law, where's your present? Mo Shaowan urged. Quickly take it out. Let's see what it is. This was supposed to be the last program. Yang Yi smiled, but he still went to the study to carefully bring it over and placed it on the coffee table. It was a very exquisite piece of woodwork. Yang Yi had personally designed and carved it. The first thing that entered her eyes was a big banyan tree carved out of tree roots. With lush leaves stuck to it, it looked somewhat similar. I want to see it too. She couldn't sit still. She tried her best to take a big bite of the cake. White cream covered the edge of her mouth. Then, she ran over impatiently and squeezed beside her father to watch. Look here. Yang Yi held a small flashlight, pushed aside the leaves of the banyan tree, and shone it in. There's a tree house here. The little girl first moved her small head over, opened her big eyes, and stared at him intently. The tree house was very big, and there was a circle of fences outside. Murphy was wondering what the winding stairs were. The tree house was the part that Yang Yi had carved the most carefully. Although it was not as big as a palm, the details inside were very well done. The small windows and doors that could be pushed and pulled, and even the fences outside were exquisitely made. It was as if this was a world of little people. Mo Fei was stunned by what he saw. However, Mo Shaowan was a little puzzled and asked, Brother-in-law, what is the meaning of this birthday gift that you gave my sister? Yang Yi smiled and said, Meaning? That's not it, but Murphy said that when she was young, she liked to play in the treehouse built by her father, so I wanted to recreate the scene of her childhood for her. Actually, at that time, Murphy and Yang Yi were chatting. Murphy said that she was a little naughty when she was young. When Murphy heard Yang Yi's words, her guess was confirmed. She looked at Yang Yi with blurred eyes, and her heart was full of gratitude. Not only because of the small treehouse, but also because Yang Yi remembered what she said, and also because of Yang Yi's efforts. Thank you, Yang Yi. I like it very much. Murphy gently bit her lower lip. What are you thanking me for? As long as you like it. Yang Yi smiled slightly. In Murphy's heart, she had secretly dispelled the complaint that Yang Yi did not understand the situation. For the sake of this treehouse, the punishment of that week, cancel it for him. I like it too. It's so beautiful. Papa, I want it too. She looked at it eagerly. The little girl felt that it was like a fairy tale world, and it was very beautiful. She pulled her father's sleeve and whispered, "This is also she's. Although it's a gift from Papa to Mom, Mom's gift is also she's, so it's also she's." Murphy held her daughter and said with a smile, "Really?" She was very surprised. "Of course." Murphy lovingly wiped the little girl's mouth with a tissue. He, then I still want to eat the cake. I haven't finished it yet." The little girl struggled out and ran back with a bell-like laughter. However, Mo Shaowan was not satisfied. She cried, "Hey, brother-in-law, it's already the last program? Is there more?" Yang Yi was also confused at this time. "Didn't I ask you to prepare a special program?" Mo Shaowan asked. "Isn't this one?" Yang Yi pointed to the gift on the table. Mo Shaowan covered her head and helplessly said, "Brother-in-law, you're Mu Xiang. I asked you to prepare a special program. Of course it's to let you write a new song for my sister. Just like the 'Just Happened to Meet You' that you sang for my sister before. It's very good." Yang Yi rubbed his nose. He really didn't think about this matter. Previously, he was wholeheartedly focused on the extremely complicated banyan tree and the small wooden house. However, if he didn't think about it, couldn't he think about it now? He had so many songs in his head, so it wouldn't be difficult to pick a song to sing. Murphy, however, helped him out of the predicament. "Shaowan, don't talk nonsense. How can it be so easy to write a song? It needs inspiration. Yang Yi, don't worry about her. I'm already very happy today's birthday, and you even prepared such a good gift." No, just now I was teasing you guys." Yang Yi smiled and interrupted Murphy's comfort. "Actually, I did prepare a special program." "Really prepared?" He, I knew it. Brother-in-law, you definitely won't let my sister down." Mo Shaowan excitedly shouted, Quickly sing it. What new song did you write for my sister?" Chapter 264. Yang Yi took the guitar and then moved a chair to sit in front of the TV. He propped his right leg up on the guitar and faced Murphy and the others who were sitting on the sofa. Cece, who was at the side, was still trying her best to bury her head in her big cake, smacking her lips non-stop. However, the little girl's big eyes looked over and curiously looked at her father. "You really wrote a song for me?" Seeing Yang Yi's posture, Murphy dizzily reacted. She couldn't hold back the surprise in her heart and asked, "Of course. Want to sing me for you?" Seeing Murphy and the others' confused expression, Yang Yi smiled. "It's the title of this song. Yo. Want to sing me for you, Teskadeze?" Mo Shaowan elbowed Murphy and winked at her ambiguously. "Stop fooling around. Listen carefully." Murphy was a little embarrassed and said angrily. Yang Yi smiled slightly and began to play his guqin. The prelude was relatively gentle at the beginning. The slightly heavy but pleasant sound of the guitar slowly opened the curtain. But it was only a short section. Yang Yi lightly tapped the fingerboard a few times. When he plucked the strings again, it was as if he suddenly changed from walking slowly to running 100 meters. The rhythm suddenly became faster. Murphy was a little surprised. She looked at Yang Yi in surprise. The songs he wrote before didn't seem to have such a big change in rhythm. But Murphy still calmed down and listened carefully. Because the melody was still very beautiful, it was the first time she listened carefully to the emotions expressed by the melody. There seemed to be some cheerfulness, some joy. Yang Yi paused for a moment and opened his mouth to sing, "Want to sing me for you?" The melody started again, but this time it was gentle and didn't overpower the main melody. This was the first time Mo Shaowan heard Yang Yi sing. When he just opened his mouth, the deep magnetic voice made her scalp tingle. It was too good to listen to. In the original song, this opening was a female part, but Yang Yi didn't show off his skills for the sake of showing off. He lowered the pitch and changed it to a completely male tune. Take advantage of the fact that you're still young like a flower. Let the flowers bloom as much as you want. Decorate your years and my sprouts. The lyrics did fit the mood of the female voice, but Murphy did not react. She looked into Yang Yi's eyes and felt the love in his eyes. It was thick and fragrant like a flower. Who can replace you? Love to your heart's content while you're young. My dearest person, the journey is long. Let's be together. The lyrics were almost sweet. Mo Shawan, who was listening by the side, was actually a little distracted. After all, she was not as infatuated with music as Murphy. As she listened, she suddenly realized that this song seemed to have nothing to do with her. Then, she glanced at her cousin. Seeing her and Yang Yi looking at each other affectionately, she suddenly felt that she shouldn't be sitting there, beside Murphy. She was like a huge light bulb that was tens of thousands of watts, and the kind that was blinding but still ignored. Damn, why did I say that? Mo Shawan was a little regretful. Isn't this because I didn't eat enough dog food? I'll sing me for you. Give me your pure and innocent smile. Yang Yi suddenly raised the tempo and voice. The joy in his voice seemed to be raised like scattered grains. He suddenly stopped and reached out his left hand. Murphy understood Yang Yi's meaning without rehearsing. Her face was filled with happiness. She walked over and took Yang Yi's hand. Let's do it together. Yang Yi took back his hand, still holding the strings, and looked at her encouragingly. Murphy was a little surprised, but still nodded. The melody started again, and Yang Yi hummed softly. I'll sing me for you. I'll sing me for you. Murphy also hummed, but she was very talented. She changed the accents herself and sang in a way that was different from Yang Yi's. It was like a harmony. I'll use my burning feelings to move you, okay? Time is worth remembering, nostalgic, shy blushing face. Yang Yi didn't stop. He continued singing, and Murphy swayed gently beside him, humming softly. Who can replace you? Yang Yi looked up into Murphy's eyes as he sang. Regardless of age, this was the best confession. The woman also lowered her head and looked at him tenderly. She hummed and smiled. Mo Shawan was also looking at them, especially Murphy. Her cousin's slightly red face had a sweet smile, like a blooming peony. Mo Shawan understood Murphy too well. When did she usually smile like this? She was smiling like flowers. This wasn't just happiness, but also joy from the bottom of her heart. Her eyes were filled with love that couldn't be hidden and didn't need to be hidden. High mountains and flowing rivers meet soulmates. The so-called harmony between the zither and the luan and the phoenix were probably talking about Yang Yi and Murphy, right? The road is long. Let's be together. When Mo Shawan came back to her senses, she realized that Yang Yi had finished singing the song. Although Murphy hadn't learned it yet, she also hummed along to the end. Nice. Nice. Mo Shawan waved her arms to vent, then clapped her hands. Brother-in-law, why do you always sing so well? I actually didn't know. She didn't know when she finished eating the cake. The little girl felt that Auntie Mo Shawan was questioning her father, so she immediately stood up unhappily. With a bulging belly, she proudly said, My papa has always been very good. He can even sing Let Under Go, Let Under Go. Although Yang Yi was afraid that his daughter would reveal the secret, he rarely sang for she, but the little girl still remembered it clearly. What? Mo Shawan asked in surprise. Let Under Go. Murphy looked at Yang Yi with her beautiful eyes. Yang Yi, you haven't sung this song for me. I heard she say that this is an English song that you sing. The night when she exposed Yang Yi was too crazy. Murphy forgot to ask about it. Only when she mentioned it did she remember. Wow, brother-in-law also knows English songs? Don't tell me it was also written by you? Mo Shawan was really surprised this time. He also knows many foreign languages. What's so strange about knowing English? Murphy explained, but she still looked at Yang Yi. I wrote it. Previously, when I was telling she the fairy tale, Frozen, I suddenly wrote the song. At first, it was a Chinese version, called Let It Go, but later I felt that the Chinese version was a bit lacking, so I tried to change it to English lyrics, so it was called Let It Go. Yang Yi smiled and said, Quick, quick, sing it. Mo Xiaowan excitedly clapped her hands. Let's listen to the Chinese version first, then the English version. Actually, it's better for Murphy to sing this song. The Chinese version can be sung next time. I'll teach Murphy how to sing it. Now I'll sing the English version for you. Yang Yi gently played the guitar. The familiar melody immediately made Shishi excited, and the little girl also moved to her father's side. Let it go. Yang Yi sang the first line, and Shishi immediately sang along. Yang Yi lowered his voice and let the little girl's pure, tender, but very pleasant voice ring in the living room. He only played a little. Of course, Shishi only knew these 2 lines, but to be able to sing these 2 lines, Shishi was very happy. The little girl ran over with a smile and threw herself into her mother's arms. Yang Yi then raised his voice and continued singing. He didn't use a falsetto, so naturally it wasn't as high-pitched as the original, but Yang Yi's pronunciation was clear, and Murphy and the others saw his English standard. Chapter 265. Murphy and Mo Xiaowan both understood English, so they were also carefully listening to the meaning of the lyrics. However, Mo Xiaowan had never read the story of Frozen before, so she was a little confused by the words kingdom and queen in the lyrics. Just as Let's Go was singing to its heart's content, a voice suddenly joined in. Although it wasn't loud, it obviously ruined the rhythm. Yang Yi stopped and looked towards the source of the voice. Mo Xiaojuan's reaction was still half a beat slower. She hurriedly took out her phone from the bag next to her, but it was not her phone that she took out, but Murphy's. She usually carried Murphy's phone, but Mo Xiaowan was so focused on celebrating Murphy's birthday today that she forgot to return it to her. Mo Xiaowan glanced at the caller ID on the phone and jumped up from the sofa in fright. Sister, it's Uncle. Uncle? Murphy's father? Murphy quickly took the phone. She stretched out her finger and shushed Yang Yi, then turned around and went into the bedroom with the phone. She only picked it up when the door was closed. Yang Yi was a little confused. He did not understand for a moment. Why did Murphy have to hide to answer her father's call? Fortunately, Mo Xiaowan explained to Yang Yi in a low voice for Murphy, "Sure, brother-in-law, don't speak loudly. It's my sister's father calling from the United States." Grandpa. Shishi's eyes lit up and she called out happily. However, she also thought of her mother's advice before, so she shyly stuck out her little tongue. She pulled her father's hand and motioned for him to lower his head. Yang Yi lowered his head. The little girl moved closer to her father's ear and said with a sweet smell like cake, "Grandpa is fierce and doesn't like Papa. Mom said not to tell Grandpa, because Grandpa will beat Papa." Why? Yang Yi was quite surprised. He hadn't thought too much about it. Why? Brother-in-law, don't you know? When Mo Xiaowan heard Shi and Yang Yi's conversation, she could not help but complain, "You made my sister pregnant." The day she went back to America, Uncle was so angry that he smashed the cabinet and took out his shotgun. He wanted to cross the ocean to kill you. Fortunately, it was my sister who stopped him. Moreover, after Cici was born, he stopped a little. Mo Xiaowan snorted. "But you don't know this, but after my sister came back to the country, Uncle kept asking me if she came back to look for you. At first, he was very diligent. I think he still wants to kill you." When Mo Xiaowan said this, her tone was a little like before. She was mocking and taking pleasure in his misfortune. She was probably venting her resentment towards Yang Yi in the past, and secretly feeling good about it. Shishi also nodded. She whispered, "Grandpa likes Shishi and Mom very much, but he will still be fierce. Papa, don't let Grandpa find out." Listening to Mo Xiaowan and Shi talking one after another, Yang Yi was silent. He felt a little helpless about this situation. Who was to blame? It seemed that no one could be blamed except for that night in the maple forest. Who knew why it was so accurate and shot the soul? But he could not blame that night. Without that night, there would be no cute Shi. At this moment, Murphy came out. She looked at Yang Yi apologetically, then covered the phone and said to Shi, "Grandpa wants to talk to you. Don't tell Grandpa that we are at your papa's house." Murphy lowered her voice and whispered in her daughter's ear. Then, she handed the phone to the little girl and asked her to answer the phone in the bedroom. Murphy was also there to accompany her. At this moment, only Yang Yi and Mo Xiaowan were left in the living room. They looked at each other and the atmosphere became awkward. There was a little noise. Yang Yi turned his head and looked. The 3 kittens were playing with the empty gift boxes on the ground. When they saw the boxes, they lost interest in the ribbons. They saw the bigger little gray trying to get into Guazi's gift box. The box was a little small, but it still put its feet in one by one and then crawled down, leaving only a big round head outside. Ahem, brother-in-law. Mo Xiaowan took the initiative to talk to him, which made Yang Yi come back to his senses. Your singing is really good. Your voice is not bad, and you can write songs. Why don't you also debut? Become the first artist signed by my sister's studio. Mo Xiaowan was more or less joking, but she was right. If Yang Yi signed the contract now, he would be ahead of Murphy. What's more, opening a husband and wife shop in the entertainment industry, what a beautiful story. Yang Yi shook his head decisively. I'll pass. I'm not interested. I'll write songs for Murphy and play with the tickets occasionally. That's enough. Okay. Mo Xiaojuan's voice fell, and the atmosphere became awkward again. Fortunately, Shi and Grandpa didn't talk for too long before Murphy came out with the little girl. Shi jumped happily and ran to her father to tell him the good news. Papa, Grandpa didn't find out. Don't be afraid. Yang Yi was held by the little girl to comfort him. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Murphy put the phone aside, walked over, and gently explained to Yang Yi. Sorry, it was my father and mother. Because it's my birthday, they called me, because, sister, I told them everything just now. I told them that uncle was going to bring a shotgun to trouble brother-in-law. Mo Xiaowan shouted. Murphy was stunned for a moment. She looked at Yang Yi. It's not as exaggerated as Xiaowan said, but he does have some complaints about you. Although we're together now, I haven't thought about how to tell them. The main reason was that Murphy was also a little afraid of her father's bad temper. She was afraid that he would scold Yang Yi. Although Yang Yi's character was gentle, Murphy still knew that he was arrogant deep down. If he couldn't help but have a conflict with her father, Murphy would feel very uncomfortable. Looking at Murphy's nervous and worried appearance, Yang Yi couldn't help but feel pity for her. He stood up, hugged her in his arms, and comforted her. It's okay. Take your time. I'm not in a hurry. He also used his finger to lift Murphy's face, looked at her and joked. And even if he finds out, it doesn't matter. If your father is still angry with me, then I'll let him beat me up. Anyway, I'm thick-skinned. He can hit me as much as he wants. I promise I won't fight back. Who told me to make his darling pregnant? Murphy's face was red, and she said angrily, It's not that terrible. Later, when Shi was born, he was very happy. Let me take my time and slowly talk to him. Let him accept you. Why do you have to fight and kill? You men have bad tempers. With Shi watching from the side, Murphy was embarrassed to let Yang Yi hold her for too long. She quickly pushed him away. Papa hasn't finished singing yet. Shi was still thinking about Let It Go. She struggled to drag the guitar over. Then continue singing? Yang Yi asked with a smile. Wait, I'm going to leave. Mo Xiaowan looked at her watch and yawned. It's almost 10 o'clock. If I don't go back, I won't be able to get up tomorrow. Xiaowan, why don't you stay here tonight? Anyway, there are quite a lot of rooms. Murphy said with concern. It's dangerous to go back so late. Sister, I'm full today. Mo Xiaowan said faintly. Besides, if I stay here, it'll be inconvenient for you and brother-in-law to do anything. Ahem, I'd better go. It's not too late. There's a car. What nonsense are you talking about? Murphy refused to admit it and said angrily with a red face. Let's not talk about it. Let's go. Mo Xiaowan carried her bag and said goodbye to Yang Yi and Shi. Then she rushed downstairs. Then I'll send you down. Shaowan, be careful when driving at night. Murphy said as she walked. I know. Mo Xiaojuan's voice came from the stairs. But, it's you and brother-in-law who should be careful when driving at night, right? Chapter 266. In the blink of an eye, it was the weekend again. Zhongchuan's campus was still very lively. Although the students didn't have to go to class, the major clubs still took advantage of the last month of free time before the review week to organize activities. Even if the weather was cold and the north wind was biting cold, it couldn't stop their enthusiasm. Banners and flyers were flying along the way. Guazi rarely had free time. He didn't have any plans at the film club today, so he prepared to go to Yang Yi's restaurant to eat and drink. However, not long after he came down from the dormitory, he was stopped by someone. Guazi, you're Guazi, right? The man had greasy slicked back hair, wore a suit and tie, and looked like a successful person. I am. Why are you looking for me? Guazi looked at the man again and again. He didn't match the various impressions in his mind, so he confirmed that it was a stranger. The man was very enthusiastic. After confirming, he reached out to shake Guazi's hand and then handed over his business card. Hello, I'm a talent scout from Ronghua Agency. You can call me Wengu. Have you heard of Ronghua? We're from Xiongnan. He even gave a thumbs up and looked very proud. Never heard of it, but I think I've heard of your name. This was awkward, but Wengu didn't care. He laughed and said, Our company is very famous. By the way, do you remember the 1,000 Miles Chuanshu group in your school? They were all signed by our company. Oh, it's you guys. Guazi didn't care too much, but seeing that he was sincerely introducing himself to him, he pretended to be enthusiastic and laughed. Yes, it's us. Wengu said. It's also 1,000 Miles Chuanshu. They brought a CD, the CD of your freshman party, and then we discovered your singing talent. That's why we decided to find you and cultivate you into a new star in the pop music industry in the future. Wengu was talking about the future, which was a trap. They wanted to find Guazi, but probably just sign him as a trainee. Guazi didn't understand these twists and turns, but he waved his hand. Sorry to disappoint you. I don't want to develop in the music industry. I'm a man who's going to become an award-winning actor. Why would I become a singer? Guazi was very firm about his goal. Why? How glorious it is to be a singer. Think about it, walking on the street, surrounded by a large crowd, and a large group of female fans rushing to give you gifts and ask about your well-being. Wengu tried to persuade him, exaggerating and bewitching him with his words. There's no reason. It's just that my ambition doesn't lie here. But you have a very high talent in music. Of course, this talent still needs the company to help you turn it into a talent. But if you give up on yourself, it will be a pity. Wengu showed a regretful expression. Forget it, I don't want to be a singer. Guazi waved his hand. However, the talent scout was like a sticky candy. Wengu was still pestering him. Young man, don't limit your future to death. You haven't been a star, and you haven't experienced the glory of being noticed. Why don't you give yourself a chance? Give it a try. Guazi was annoyed by this pestering. He waved his hand and was about to leave. But Wengu still followed him step by step, and his mouth kept nagging. Are you done? Don't bother me. Guazi, who had a good personality, couldn't stand it anymore. He shouted and ran away. Hey, don't go. We can't do business, but we can still be friends. I want to ask you if you have Mu Xiong's contact number. Hey, where is he? He's so fat, but he runs so fast? It doesn't make sense. Wengu shouted and wanted to chase after him. But after turning a corner, Guazi disappeared. Upstairs in the physics department, Guazi was secretly looking through the window. When he saw Wengu walking away while talking to himself, he breathed a sigh of relief. There's someone who can talk better than me. It's too scary. Guazii patted his chest with some lingering fear. Fortunately, I'm more familiar with the school. After Guazii went downstairs, he changed his path and walked towards the north gate. But not long after, he was grabbed by the shoulder. The little fatty trembled. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he turned around. I said I don't want to be a singer. Just stop pestering me. His voice stopped abruptly because he saw that the person who grabbed him was no longer Wengu. It was a brawny man. To be exact, it was 4 men in military uniforms. The one who grabbed him had almost shaved his head, leaving only a little bit of stubble. The muscles on his face made him look fierce. Note 1. But he only looked fierce. The other party looked awkward. At that moment, Guazii felt that this soldier was a little simple and honest. The one who grabbed him was Gua Debao. The other 3 were obviously Luo Zongxing, Shan Xinyu, and Yu Xiaotian, who had taken advantage of the weekend to look for Yang Yi. Gua Debao had volunteered to drive them over. However, Gua Debao, who had been in the army for a long time, suddenly remembered that he only knew that Yang Yi had opened a coffee shop in Jiangchuan. He didn't know the exact location. That was awkward. What was even more awkward was that he braced himself and brought the 3 guests to look for it. Then, as they searched, they got lost in the huge campus. In the end, Gua Debao had no choice but to ask someone for directions. Coincidentally, he caught Guazii. In the end, the other party turned around and scolded him. Gua Debao couldn't get angry with an ordinary student. Guazii looked at the other party's awkward appearance and felt embarrassed. He coughed twice. Well, I'm sorry. I mistook you for someone else. Why are you looking for me? Shan Xinyu couldn't stand it anymore. He patted Gua Debao's shoulder and walked forward. He said to Guazii, "Excuse me, we're looking for a coffee shop." The name of the coffee shop? I don't know, but the owner's name is Yang Yi. It's in Zhongqing Media University. Do you know where it is? This was the right question to ask. There were tens of thousands of students in Jiangchuan. Only a few knew about Yang Yi. Guazii happened to be one of them. However, Guazii first smiled. Then, he stopped smiling and looked at them suspiciously. Why are you looking for a coffee shop whose owner is Yang Yi? A few possibilities flashed through Guazii's mind. Trouble? Revenge? Or Brother Yang committed a crime and the soldiers came to arrest him. The little fatty even imagined that the 4 of them would kidnap him and tie him up in the woods for a show. They would torture him and interrogate him about Yang Yi's whereabouts. Then, he would rather die than surrender. Just as he was fantasizing, Shan Xinyu and his buddies looked at each other happily. Guazii's behavior clearly showed that he knew Yang Yi's whereabouts. It's like this. The 3 of us are Yang Yi's former comrades. We haven't seen him for a long time. It wasn't easy for us to get news of him, so we wanted to visit him, Shan Xinyu explained. So that's what it was. Guazii suddenly understood. He said with slight disappointment, "Comrades? All right, I'm also going to Brother Yang's place. I'll bring you guys along." Chapter 267. On the weekend, the coffee shop was filled with laughter. Because she was on vacation, the shop seemed to be livelier with the little girl around. The early winter in Zhongqing didn't seem so cold anymore. Ha 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 ha. Yang Yi sat in his booth and read quietly. 2 little figures ran past him, leaving behind a string of bell-like laughter. Yang Yi was pulled back from his thoughts. He looked at Shi and Lan Xian, smiled, and shook his head. Lan Xian was the one who came to play with Shi the most often among her friends. Lan Zhoukai also trusted Yang Yi very much. After a few exchanges, they always felt that they were like brothers in arms. Therefore, a busy man like him couldn't accompany his daughter. Instead of letting Lan Xian stay at home and cry, it was better to leave his daughter with Yang Yi. Anyway, there would be someone to take care of her and serve her well. This wishful thinking couldn't be better. After a while, the 2 little girls giggled and chased the pitiful little gray, who was running away. Once again, they ran past Yang Yi. Yang Yi reached out and caught the two little girls by their waists. He smiled and said, "Run slower, don't fall." Haha. The moment Shi and Lan Xian were caught, they pressed down on Yang Yi's big arms and looked at each other and laughed. They laughed so hard that their little bodies went soft. No one knew what they were laughing about. Shi, who didn't have her friends by her side, was a little lady. With her friends by her side, the energetic little girl played like crazy. I know. The little girl couldn't stay by her father's side. She and Lan Xian pushed their father's hands away. The two little girls held hands and ran away with a smile. Yang Yi watched them run away to play before he looked away and read his book. Welcome. Another customer came. Recently, the coffee shop's business had been better. It was probably because it was winter. It was very enjoyable to drink a warm cup of tea. Ding Xiang greeted the new customer. He was a student wearing glasses, but the lenses were almost as thick as the bottom of a beer bottle. His clothes were slightly old-fashioned. He wore a rough plaid shirt and grayish-blue cotton pants. He looked exactly like a person in a photo from more than 30 years ago. But Ding Xiang definitely wouldn't agree to say that he was poor. The watch on his wrist and the leather shoes on his feet weren't cheap. He wasn't particularly rich, but he should be in the middle class. He was much better than Ding Xiang in the past. But his taste was probably comparable to the mother of a female celebrity who had participated in the Beijing Olympics. Ding Xiang introduced the coffee in the shop to him, but the boy frowned. He pushed up his glasses, narrowed his eyes, and looked at the menu for a while. Then, he said unhappily, "Why is the coffee in your shop so expensive? Compared to Eastgate's coffee, it's a lot more." Ding Xiang had encountered this problem many times. She smiled and patiently explained, "It's like this. Our shop sells freshly ground coffee. It's hand-ground coffee beans that have been roasted." Before Ding Xiang could finish, the boy interrupted, "I'm talking to you about the price. Why are you talking to me about freshly ground coffee? Tell me, do you usually have very few customers?" Ding Xiang was a little stunned. "That's right." The boy didn't wait for Ding Xiang to answer. With a proud face, he continued, "I'll analyze the reason for you. Don't be too grateful. Just treat me to a cup of coffee later." He didn't see Ding Xiang's speechless expression at all. According to the bourbon water theorem. Forget it. It seems like you don't understand this professional economic term. Anyway, you just need to know that you're doing a student business. But what are you selling? Freshly ground coffee? Of course, it doesn't matter what kind of freshly ground coffee you sell, but in the price range of 10 to 20 yuan, what kind of products do you have that can compete with your competitors for customers in this price range? None. The commotion over there also attracted Yang Yi's attention, but he had no intention of interfering. "It's not a big deal. Let Ding Xiang handle it. We have cupcakes." Ding Xiang couldn't help but say, "I'm talking about coffee. Why are you talking to me about cake?" The boy looked as if he expected better from her. "I'm here to buy coffee, and you're recommending a cake to me. Are you stupid or am I stupid to buy your cake?" Today, the boy acted as if he was an expert and wanted to persuade Ding Xiang to sell instant coffee. He talked for a long time. Ding Xiang's personality was good. If it was someone else, "Although what you said makes sense, I'm really sorry. Our shop only sells instant coffee. Bah, only freshly ground coffee." Ding Xiang was dizzy from his words and almost got confused. "This is the rule set by our boss. Stupid and stubborn. You can't be taught. You can't be taught." The boy looked at Ding Xiang with disdain and shook his head, but he still took out the money. "Forget it. Give me a cup of that 30 yuan mocha. I don't have time to go to East Gate. By the way, I've told you so much. Did you get any inspiration?" Ouch. The boy who wanted to take the opportunity to ask for a discount suddenly cried out as if someone had stepped on his foot. He turned around and lowered his head. Through his thick glasses, he glared at Shi, who was still a little dizzy and sitting on the ground. It turned out that Shi and Lon Xin were chasing each other and ran past. In a moment of carelessness, Shi bumped into his leg. "Hey, I'm sorry. Shi, are you hurt?" Ding Xiang hurriedly ran out. She squatted down and picked up Shi from the ground while apologizing to the boy. "Is it okay to be sorry? My calf almost got a cramp from the collision." The boy's ferocious face made Shi and Lon Xian a little scared. Lon Xian nervously leaned toward Shi, who was leaning in Ding Xiang's arms. "I'm sorry." Shi mumbled softly. She felt that she had gotten into trouble. However, she felt a little wronged because of the boy's fierce attitude. Moreover, the little girl's butt was already hurting from the fall. Now, she was scared, nervous, and worried. She pursed her lips and was about to cry. Yang Yi originally didn't want to pay attention to what was going on here. He felt that the boy was a clown and couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. However, Ding Xiang's cry attracted his attention from reading again. She fell? Where did this little girl come from? Don't you have any manners? The boy was a little unforgiving. He pointed his finger and scolded Shi. Then, he turned his attention to Ding Xiang. What kind of place is a coffee shop? It's a quiet, elegant, healthy, and hygienic place. How could you allow these uneducated little girls and these smelly cats to come in? I don't think your shop will last long, right? Xiao Guai is not smelly. She was already sobbing softly. She turned her head to her sister Ding Xiang and argued. You keep saying uneducated. Have you been living on a dog's body for so many years? No, I can't insult a dog. Yang Yi's voice was cold. Even if it was a cold joke, it wasn't funny at all. His words carried a murderous aura. If you say another word, see if I'll tear your mouth apart. She's my daughter. I can't even bear to scold her, and you're teaching her a lesson for me? Thinking of this, Yang Yi was furious. When he stood up, he fiercely punched the table. A thin crack appeared on the solid wood table. Seeing Yang Yi's burly figure, the boy immediately swallowed the rest of his curses back into his stomach and kept quiet out of fear. Yang Yi walked over. Ignoring him, he squatted down and took Shi into his arms. When he looked at his daughter, the coldness on his face melted. He smiled gently and asked softly, Shi, where did you fall? The little girl felt a lot more at ease in her father's arms. She pouted, touched her little butt, and said, My butt hurts. Yang Yi rubbed his daughter's butt and then kissed her little face. He smiled and whispered in her ear in a voice only his daughter could hear, Don't be afraid. Dad will help you vent your anger. No one in this world can be fierce to our Shi. Just when Yang Yi was being gentle with his daughter, the boy breathed a sigh of relief. However, he didn't dare to provoke Yang Yi again. The height and figure of the two were much different. Forget it. I won't argue with you. He turned and walked out of the door, muttering in a low voice, Such a shabby shop will be closed sooner or later. However, Yang Yi's ears were very sharp. He heard everything clearly. However, he wasn't in a hurry to stop him. He walked casually and let the guy run 39 meters first. The boy had already slipped out. Yang Yi pulled Lon Xian over and comforted her. Then, he handed the two little girls to Ding Xiang. Ding Xiang, help me take care of Shi and Xian. Brother Yang Yi, what are you going to do? Ding Xiang pulled Yang Yi's hand anxiously. Don't worry. Someone's head is hot because of the cold weather. I'll let him soak in the hot water to calm down. Yang Yi smiled and patted Ding Xiang's hand. Then, he winked at the little girl who had stopped crying but was still crying. Shi, cover your eyes. Repeat 10 times until 30. Dad will be back soon. She had learned to count from 1 to 30 in kindergarten. The little girl wiped her tears and nodded confusedly. Exen, 2, you have to cover your eyes. Yang Yi patted Lon Xian's little head and reminded her that the scene might be very violent and not suitable for children. Then he walked out. Chapter 268. A scream came from the side of the Grand Canal. Don't let go. I won't do it again, I won't do it again. Yang Yi didn't spend much time and effort to catch the guy who scolded his daughter for being uneducated. Then, he easily grabbed his wrist with one hand and lifted him above the Grand Canal. There had been a lot of rain recently, and the water level of the Grand Canal had risen a lot. He could feel the flowing river water not far from his feet through his leather boots, and the bone-chilling cold. As long as Yang Yi let go, he would definitely fall into the river. He was so scared that he almost peed his pants, and could only beg for mercy with tears and snot. Actually, he was just a student who liked to talk big. Yang Yi looked at his miserable appearance with a cold face, but he was hesitant. Should he throw him down? If it was when he first came to this world, if someone dared to bully his daughter, Yang Yi would definitely throw him into the river and not pick him up. But in these few months, he had gotten used to the life of an ordinary person, and his heart had been melted by Shi. Yang Yi's personality had changed a lot, and his way of thinking was no longer too extreme. So, he had to consider if it would be troublesome to pick this guy up after throwing him down. "Brother Yang, what are you doing?" Guazi's voice came from afar. He still let this guy escape. Yang Yi turned his head to look, and his eyes narrowed slightly. His gaze went past Guazi and landed on the four people behind him. He recognized Guadabeo at first glance, and then the other three. Those familiar faces made him quickly find the corresponding memories in the depths of his mind. How did they find me? Of course, with Guadabeo around, the answer was obvious. Count yourself lucky. Next time, if you talk nonsense, I'll really let you soak in the soup. Yang Yi picked up the guy who was scared out of his wits and threw him to the side of the grass. He said coldly, "Scram." Yang Yi ignored him and walked towards Guazi and the others without looking back. That guy looked at Yang Yi's back for a few seconds before he came back to his senses. As if he had been granted amnesty, he didn't care that his legs were weak and quickly fled. "Big brother Yang, that person is..." Guazi still wanted to speak, but when he saw the expressions on the faces of the soldiers, he tactfully shut his mouth. Guadabeo was fine, but Luo Zongxing, Shen Xinyu, and Yu Xiaotian's eyes reddened when they saw Yang Yi walking towards them with a smile. Of course, with their tan skin, the redness in their eyes couldn't be seen. They wouldn't cry. Even if they were hit by bullets, they wouldn't shed a tear. Now that they suddenly saw their brothers who fought side by side with them 5 years ago, the memories came flooding back like a tide. For a moment, they were overwhelmed with emotions. Yang Yi looked at the three of them. His mood was a little complicated. Although it didn't have much to do with him, the memories were indeed merged. It was as if he had experienced it himself. When he was flipped over, the feelings of comrades who could entrust their lives to each other still affected him. "Master Luo, Shen, Xiao, long time no see. How have you been?" Yang Yi paused, but still held back his sadness and forced a smile. "Surnamed Yang, you bastard." Shen Xinyu's character couldn't hold back at all. He cursed and rushed forward to give Yang Yi a bear hug. In fact, Yang Yi didn't want to be hugged by men. "I thought you were King dead." Yang Yi secretly sighed as he listened to the vulgar words and patted him on the back. He didn't kick this guy away. Instead, he hesitated for a moment and patted him lightly on the shoulder. After letting go, Yang Yi smiled and said to Shen Xinyu, "Looks like your strength hasn't improved in the past 5 years. "Bullshit. You're saying I haven't improved? Why don't we have a spa now?" Shen Xinyu was provoked by Yang Yi to the point that his eyes were wide open. He was about to unbutton his jacket. "If you want to spa, wait until we have time." Luo Zongxing pushed Shen Xinyu away. His expression was a little complicated. He smiled bitterly and said, "Yang Yi, I haven't seen you in 5 years. You still don't seem to have changed." Yang Yi read the memories of his predecessor and had his own judgment about some misunderstandings of his predecessor. He hesitated for a moment and took the initiative to give Luo Zongxing a hug. "Master Luo, I haven't changed much, but you look a lot older." Although it couldn't be considered a grudge, Yang Yi was angry because Luo Zongxing didn't protect him. Luo Zongxing also felt guilty for 5 years because of this. Now, with this hug, Luo Zongxing felt Yang Yi's understanding and relief. I'm old. I can't fight anymore. In the past 2 years, I've been participating less and less in frontline missions. I might be retiring from Battle Wolf soon. Luo Zongxing smiled and blinked hard. The wrinkles at the corners of his eyes were a little wet. Shen Xinyu still didn't understand. He spoke up for Luo Zongxing. Yang Yi, Master Luo is in the past. You know Master Luo's difficulties, but you might not know. After that person fell from the horse 2 years ago, Master Luo has been helping you apply and finally restored your military status and file. There were such things? Yang Yi was a little surprised, but his heart didn't fluctuate much. After all, his state of mind was different now. He smiled and said, "Okay, let's not talk about the past anymore. We are still brothers in the future." "Yes, brother." Luo Zongxing patted Yang Yi's shoulder. There was still Yu Xiaotian. Yu Xiaotian came this time because he and Yang Yi were partners. Yu Xiaotian was a sniper, and Yang Yi was his wingman. No, he was a spotter. Although Yu Xiaotian's sniping was good, his personal combat value wasn't high. Moreover, he often forgot about his own safety when he was in a killing frenzy. Yang Yi's existence was even more important to protect him and cover his retreat. It could be said that Yang Yi was Yu Xiaotian's life insurance. In Yang Yi's memory, his predecessor was most worried about this guy after he retired. Fortunately, although the two hadn't been partners for 5 years, Yu Xiaotian wasn't killed by the enemy. "Ah Xiao, you are still the same as before, serious in speech and manner." Yang Yi smiled at him. Yu Xiaotian's face was still cold, but he took a step forward and hugged Yang Yi. This guy wasn't tall, and his head only reached Yang Yi's chest, but he hugged Yang Yi's waist tightly. Good brothers, everything was understood without words. Originally, Yang Yi thought that his heart wouldn't have any ripples because in his previous life, he didn't have any brothers, only himself. However, when he hugged these 3 brothers who had fought together, his heart was touched. It wasn't because of the influence of his predecessor's soul imprint. Yang Yi could clearly feel that he was really happy and moved by this pure comradeship, a brotherhood that was thicker than blood. It turned out that he didn't want to be alone, and he also longed to have brothers who could entrust their lives to him. No, they were his brothers. This. Gua de Bao stood at the side with his arms wide open. After waiting for a long time, Yang Yi didn't come, so he awkwardly scratched his head. Yang Yi saw him, laughed heartily, and went over to hug him. However, the other Guazi refused to be hugged by men. Chapter 269. Seeing his old comrades, Yang Yi naturally couldn't let them suffer outside. He walked in front and invited Luo Zongxing and the others to his coffee shop to continue catching up. As soon as he opened the door, the little girl, whose tears had been wiped away by Sister Ding Xiang, ran over in surprise and threw herself into her father's arms. However, she soon pouted and complained, "Papa, you lied." "Papa, Dad." Shen Xinyu, who was following behind, was shocked by this call. She looked at Luo Zongxing and Yu Xiaotian in surprise. Yang Yi had a child. However, it was not particularly strange that he had a child. Not everyone in the army was single. For example, Master Luo was married, but he didn't have a child yet. What Shen Xinyu found strange was that Yang Yi's daughter was a little old. She looked like she was 5 or 6 years old. "You said you would give in to me. I said dozens of times that you would come back, but you didn't come back." The little girl turned her worry for her father into complaint. She hugged her father's neck tightly and said. After saying that, the little girl saw that there were a lot of people behind her father. She shyly shrunk her head, but now she was a lot bolder. Her big eyes rolled around, sizing up these people in green clothes. "It's my fault. I came back late because I met these uncles outside. They were my old good friends." Yang Yi turned around and introduced them. "Master Luo, Shen Xinyu, Ah Shao, this is my daughter, she. This is Uncle Luo, Uncle Shen, Uncle Yu, and Uncle Gua. Uncle Gua? She was a little surprised. She turned to look at Gua Zi, who was explaining to Ding Xiang. The little girl was a little puzzled. Why are there two Uncle Gua? Because their surnames are Gua, but that is Uncle Gua Zi, and this is Uncle Gua de Bao. Yang Yi smiled. Okay then. After greeting them, she ran to continue playing with Lan Xan. Because her father had stepped forward bravely and stood in front of her like a mountain, that fierce guy didn't leave any psychological trauma on Cece. It was just like the children who liked to watch Ultraman in his previous life. Although they should be afraid of those ferocious monsters, as long as they believed that Ultraman would help them defeat those monsters, then those monsters were nothing to be afraid of. Gua Zi sensibly went to harass Ding Xiang and did not come over to disturb Yang Yi and his comrades' reunion. Yang Yi invited Luo Zongxing and the others, including Gua de Bao, to a larger booth and sat down together. He took out his own tea set from the bar counter and personally made tea for these brothers. Of course, they were not used to drinking coffee. Holy shit, Yang Yi, what have you been through all these years? You've even started drinking tea like that? Shen Xinyu couldn't help but cry out when she saw Yang Yi use tweezers to pick up small purple clay teacups and wash them with boiling water as if they were pieces of art. Luo Zongxing and Yu Xiaotian's reactions were similar to Shen Xinyu's. Gua de Bao scratched his head and said, I drink tea in big mouthfuls, this small teacup is not enough to quench my thirst. He used to be like that. In the past, Master Luo got some good tea leaves from some big shots, and he drank them like a cow chewing on peonies. Shen Xinyu exposed. Yang Yi smiled and turned to the bar counter to get a coffee cup for Gua de Bao. The other three were more or less in a refined mood, but Gua de Bao was probably not used to this kind of slow drinking method. Although Luo Zongxing also asked Yang Yi about the conflict at the dam, Yang Yi didn't want to talk about it and played it down. The few of them drank tea and talked about many things after Yang Yi left. After you left, there were some changes in Battle Wolf's people. A few batches came and a few batches left. First, it was Whistle and Old Chen who were injured and retired to do office work, and then Luo Zongxing said with slight sadness. And Old Zhang and Zhu Zi, the two of them were sacrificed. Shen Xinyu added. Yang Yi was slightly stunned. Although he had long been indifferent to life and death, these two comrades of his were still fresh in his memory and were not unrelated targets to be killed. Hearing the news of their deaths, Yang Yi couldn't help but feel his heart clench. How did they die? Yang Yi asked in a low voice. 4 years ago, we besieged Nuoka, but the intelligence was wrong and we fell into his ambush. Luo Zongxing didn't want to talk about these sad things, but since Shen Xinyu had already spilled the beans, he briefly told Yang Yi. Naturally, it was inevitable to ask about Yang Yi's experiences over the years. Luo Zongxing and the others were very curious about what Yang Yi had experienced and how he had changed so much. He even wrote works like Soldier's Assault and Drawing Sword. It's nothing much. I've been traveling all over the world over the years and have worked in all kinds of industries, but I've always worked at the bottom and learned from the people around me. That's why I know a little bit of everything. As for writing novels, Yang Yi smiled and said casually, those years when I was alone, I could only read books to pass the time at night. After reading a lot of novels, I learned how to write them myself. These comrades didn't have any doubts, but they lamented that Yang Yi didn't have it easy. However, Shen Xinyu looked at Yang Yi strangely. What about your daughter? She's 5 or 6 years old, isn't she? I remember you didn't take a vacation a few years before you retired. This guy was still a little blabbermouth. What are you talking about? How beautiful is Yang Yi's daughter? Your facial features are the same as Yang Yi's. Luo Zongxing reprimanded. Yang Yi laughed and explained, she is only 4 years old. It's just that her mother is tall and has good genes, so she's a little taller than children her age. I see. Several people suddenly realized and breathed a sigh of relief for Yang Yi. Yang Yi didn't tell them about the ups and downs of his relationship with Murphy. He basically skimmed over it and refused to divulge anything. They chatted for a long time and even changed a few batches of tea leaves. However, Shen Xinyu had been thinking about sparring with Yang Yi. While Luo Zongsheng went to the bathroom, he excitedly smiled. Yang Yi, just now Master Luo stopped me, but since we brothers haven't seen each other for so long, shouldn't we spar? I heard from Gua de Bao that your martial arts have improved a lot over the years. You can't beat Yang Yi. Gua de Bao kindly reminded him. Shen Xinyu was unhappy. F*CK, who said I can't beat him. Back in the days when we were in the army, he was defeated by me. The one surnamed Shen, when you say this, doesn't your conscience hurt? Yang Yi chuckled. His interest was piqued. He imitated Shen Xinyu's tone and said in a rough voice. Back then, when I fought with you, who won more and who lost more, don't you have any idea in your heart? At that time, Yang Yi and Shen Xinyu's skills were very strong. They were basically at the same level, but the two of them were not convinced by each other and felt that they won more. You said you won more? Ah Shao, you judge, didn't I beat him to the ground back then? Shen Xinyu was not convinced. Yu Shaotian has always been a quiet person. But at this time, he looked at the two people and opened his mouth. Regardless of the past, let's talk after we fight. Okay, let's talk after we fight. Shen Xinyu confidently stood up and raised his eyebrows at Yang Yi. Let's go. Luo Zongsheng came back. When he saw this scene, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he didn't stop them. People don't talk much. Yang Yi responded with action. He unbuttoned his coat, revealing the short sleeves inside. Shen Xinyu didn't show any weakness. He also took off his coat, revealing his robust body wearing a green vest. The two of them plunged into the cold wind outside. Chapter 270. Do you have building blocks at home? My father bought me a big building block, and then asked his bodyguard to build me a big castle. What are bodyguards? When Lan Xian and she were sitting side by side on the small piano stool and chatting, they suddenly saw Shi's father and a group of uncles coming out. When the door was opened, the cold wind made them scream, shiver, laugh, and hug each other. Of course, most of the time, the two little girls were fooling around. What is Papa going to do? She jumped down from the stool, ran to the window, and looked out through the floor-to-ceiling glass. Shi, let's not go out, okay? Lan Xian also ran over, took Shi's hand, and said, It's so cold outside. I don't want to freeze into ice cream. Okay, but I want to see my Papa. But when she turned her head to look out of the window again, on the grass outside, Yang Yi and Shen Xinyu had already wrestled together. Ah! Shi, your father is fighting. It's not good to fight. Lan Xian suddenly shouted, and her loud voice was noticed by Guazi, who was also watching with Ding Xiang on the other side. Why is Papa fighting? She was sad. The little girl pouted and explained, I don't want Papa to fight. My Papa is a good person. Guazi came over, patted Shi's little head, and deliberately imitated Shi's accent. Your Papa is not fighting. You don't have to worry. He has a good relationship with that uncle. Now they are just playing to see who is more powerful. Well, my Papa must be more powerful. In fact, the little girl was cheering for her father, but in her heart, she was very nervous, which could be seen from her tightly clenched little fists. On the grass, Yang Yi was still testing the waters. He was locked in a fierce battle with Shen Xinyu. A few guys who were joining in the fun were also waving their fists and shouting. Although they couldn't hear what they were shouting, it seemed that the battle was extremely fierce. I don't think so. My father's bodyguard is also a soldier like that uncle. Lan Xian shook her head and said, He is super powerful and can beat many people. What should we do? She was worried. Shi's father should be more powerful, right? And he used to be a soldier. Guazi recalled a scene where Yang Yi had sent the little wild boar flying with a single kick. He felt that he had more confidence in Yang Yi. Shishi's father used to be a soldier, too? Lon Xian's eyes lit up, and she looked outside with some admiration. Then I also think Shishi's father is more powerful, because he can cook a lot of delicious dishes. Although Uncle Gua and Xian Air were both on her papa's side, Shishi still did not relax. The little girl's big eyes were full of worry, and she kept looking at her father, who was wrestling with the other party on the grass. Perhaps because he felt his daughter's expectation, Yang Yi did not test the waters anymore, and he used some of his real skills. Shen Sinyu's kung fu was indeed better than Guadabeo's, and compared with 5 years ago, his kung fu had improved a lot, but that was only the peak of ordinary people. Yang Yi shouted, and the breath in his body flowed, and he suddenly sped up. Suddenly, he was close to Shen Sinyu. Isn't this my 8 trigrams boxing? Guadabeo, who was next to him, widened his eyes. Although Yang Yi's moves were not perfect, they were actually quite good. Of course, Yang Yi had gone back to study it himself after the sparring. He had never been biased, and it had always been Yang Yi's hobby to learn the strengths of others to make up for his shortcomings. However, Shen Sinyu's Wing Chun was also good at fighting at close range. He shouted excitedly, "Awesome!" And then he and Yang Yi began to punch each other. However, he shouted, "Awesome," too early. Yang Yi quickly made him understand what pain was, and how fast he could not even see a shadow. Shen Sinyu's several punches hit the air, and Yang Yi just dodged them. Yang Yi's attacks became more and more fierce. Even though Shen Sinyu blocked a few of his punches, his arms were still numb from the pain. 8 trigrams boxing was unforgiving. After Yang Yi gained the upper hand, Shen Sinyu had no chance to fight back. He wanted to struggle, but he had no choice but to block. Finally, Yang Yi's fist broke through his defense and hit his body. 1 punch, 2 punches. The two of them fought very quickly, and their fists were so fast that only their shadows could be seen. Cici and Lon Xian were in a daze as they watched through the glass window. However, Cici was a little frightened, for she was afraid that her father would get hurt. Okay, I admit defeat. It was too painful. Shen Sinyu didn't know that Yang Yi was still holding back. He gritted his teeth and jumped away, leaving the battlefield. He shook his numb arm and said, "Yang Yi, what have you been through these years? How come your punches and kicks are getting more and more powerful?" Yang Yi also withdrew his fist and smiled faintly. "It's not a matter of experience. I'm better than you. Using the elementary school mathematics classics to analyze the problem, I'm better than you, and I'll only become better and better." Shen Sinyu and Luo Zongsheng were all stunned. Is this an explanation? You win, and you don't want to talk about it, but you still want to pretend? Shen Sinyu roared and jumped over, punching Yang Yi on the shoulder. Yang Yi just smiled and blocked the punch. They couldn't help laughing, as if they had returned to the best time 5 years ago. When they returned to the shop, Cici couldn't wait to run over. She carefully glanced at those uncles, especially Uncle Shen, who was shivering and saying that he was cold, and ran to put on his clothes. Then she took her father's hand, looked up, and said, "Papa, did you win?" "Of course." Yang Yi smiled and picked up the little girl. She smiled happily and was happy for her father. Then she came over and held her father's face with her soft little hands. She looked at her father like her mother and said with concern, "Then Papa, what's wrong with you? If it hurts, she can blow on it for you." The little girl's considerate appearance suddenly made the eyes of several big men soften. "It's okay, she, don't worry. Papa is so powerful, how can I be injured?" Yang Yi said softly. He was injured when he fought with Guadabeo because he underestimated the masters in the army in this world. Okay. The little girl asked her father to put her down and ran to tell her friends the good news. After a while, Lon Xian's loud voice came again. "I told you that your father is very powerful." Although Luo Zongsheng was married, he was busy with Zhang Lang and didn't have a child with his wife. At this moment, he looked at the cute little girl with some envy and said to Yang Yi, "Alas, Yang Yi, look at your daughter, I want a daughter." Then Master Luo, you should take a vacation and go back to visit your family. Every year, sister-in-law comes to see you, but you don't go home. You only get together for a few days every year. How can you have time to concentrate on making a baby? Shen Xinyu said with a smile. Chapter 271. That will have to wait until I retire from Zhang Lang. I really feel that I can't keep up with the rhythm of the team these 2 years. Maybe I should give my position to the young people. Luo Zongxing said again, a trace of bitterness appearing on his face. Luo Zongxing was 5 or 6 years older than Yang Yi. The current Luo Zongxing was no longer as powerful as before. Of course, he would still be a fierce man in an ordinary army, but after all, Wulfang was a special force, and it was the strongest special force. There were many strong people, so it was normal for him to feel powerless. A few years ago, he wanted to retire to the second line. However, 2 years ago, Yang Yi's incident gave him a chance. Luo Zongxing, who had always been worried about Yang Yi, gave up on the idea and stayed. Master Luo, why are you retreating? Didn't we agree that you will be a Zhang Lang man in life and a Zhang Lang soul in death? So what if you can't fight? If you can't fight, you can just do the commanding work. We can charge and break through the enemy lines. Shen Xinyu grinned in dissatisfaction and said, anyway, I'm not convinced that someone else is the captain. Shen Xinyu couldn't be the captain. After all, with his temper, it was enough for him to be a small captain who didn't need to care too much with his qualifications and strength. He didn't have any particularly high goals. Nonsense. Zhang Lang is a frontline combat force. It's impossible for them to keep idle people. If I retire, there will be a new commander. I believe he will do better than me. Luo Zongxing scolded with a smile. Besides, it's not like I don't care about Zhang Lang. I'm just supporting you in other ways. Guo Debao came back to his senses. He had been thinking about how Yang Yi defeated Shen Xinyu with his own martial arts. Although Guo Debao wasn't enlightened, he felt that Yang Yi's fighting style had given him some inspiration. He had to practice it when he went back. Listening to Shen Xinyu and the others' conversation, Guo Debao looked at them with some envy. It wasn't that the Viper he was in didn't have such a strong combat friendship, but Guo Debao yearned for a group like Zhang Lang. He also wanted to participate in the frontline battles and hone his skills. At noon, Yang Yi invited them to his house for lunch. It was the first time the brothers had come to his house, so naturally, Yang Yi cooked for them. However, Yang Yi's culinary skills did not receive much praise. Eating in the military camp was like fighting a war. They were used to wolfing down their food, and the brothers could not taste the difference between good and bad. At most, they felt that Yang Yi's dishes were as good as the ones in the guest house. Therefore, while Yang Yi was still picking up food for his daughter and ex-owner, they, even the seemingly quiet Yu Xiaotian, had already finished eating like a whirlwind sweeping away the clouds. Ugh! Guo Debao burped. He had the biggest appetite. Yang Yi cooked 2 rice cookers, and he ate half of the rice cooker by himself. She was amused by her uncle's long burp. The little girl held a small spoon, and her beautiful eyes curved into crescent moons. Lan Xian, who was next to her, raised one eye, then lowered her head and continued to eat. The little fat girl had a big appetite. No matter how much food Yang Yi gave her, she would eat it all. Guo Debao was a little embarrassed by the little girl's smile. He scratched his big bald head, and the word embarrassed was written on his face. You can't laugh when eating. If you choke, you will feel very uncomfortable. Yang Yi gently patted his daughter's back. Yang Yi, I have always had a question. You are so skilled, why did you leave Zhang Lang? Guo Debao didn't know what happened to Yang Yi before, and he had been holding back this question for a long time. This question. Yang Yi glanced at Luo Zongxing, smiled slightly, and said, I can only say that it was an abnormal reason. Forget it, it's all in the past. Why bring it up? Guo Debao was still a little confused, but he still closed his mouth. The military discipline was strict, and he knew not to ask what he shouldn't ask. Yang Yi, you can go back to Zhonlang now. Being defeated by Yang Yi and unable to fight back, Shen Xinyu was a little depressed. She didn't talk much during the meal, but now she couldn't hold it in anymore and said, Master Luo has already restored your military status in Zhonlang. Although you are still in a retired state, with your current skills, you can come back. The leaders will not disapprove, they also know your situation. Luo Zongxing's expression changed, and he said in a deep voice, Yes, if you are willing to come back, Zhonlang's door is always open to you. Yu Xiaotian didn't speak, but his eyes revealed his desire. Come back. As if there was a voice calling in his heart, Yang Yi's mind was filled with memories of a group of brothers fighting side by side. Zhonlang needs you. Seeing Yang Yi in a daze, Luo Zongxing couldn't help but say again. He knew that he shouldn't pressure Yang Yi at this time, but his selfishness still made him say it. Yang Yi took a deep breath, but only shook his head with a bitter smile. Master Luo, Ah Shao, Shen Xinyu, I'm sorry. I can't go back to that time. You can say that I have lost my fighting spirit or scold me for coveting comfort, but now I just want to live the life of an ordinary person. Can you live the life of an ordinary person? Shen Xinyu, who was a few years younger than Yang Yi, was a little excited. If you were an ordinary person, you wouldn't have maintained high-intensity training every day. Damn it, when I was in the army, I didn't improve as fast as you in the past 5 years. Ask your heart. In fact, Yang Yi asked his heart with a clear conscience. His training was only to protect the people he loved. Even if he had merged with the memories of his predecessor, he didn't have the passion of a military life. However, Yang Yi just smiled bitterly. Everyone has their own ambitions. Shen Xinyu, don't say any more. Luo Zongxing could understand Yang Yi's thoughts more. Now Yang Yi is living a good life. He wrote such a wonderful military novel. It can be considered as continuing in another way. However, Shen Xinyu was very excited at the moment. He interrupted Luo Zongxing's words and shouted, Master Luo, I don't agree with what you said. No matter how good Yang Yi's novel is it as good as his fighting skills? He was born for war. With such strong fighting skills, he hid in a small room to write and write. I think he is escaping. Shen Xinyu, you've gone too far. Luo Zongxing was furious. The noise here scared the two little girls. She turned around and hugged her father's hand. She looked timidly at Shen Xinyu, who had already closed his mouth. Uncle Shen, don't blame my papa, okay? My papa, my papa. The little girl's scared voice sounded weakly. It was like a clear spring flowing through this hot and dry land. The originally anxious atmosphere was dispelled. Shen Xinyu seemed to have understood something and lowered her head dejectedly. Yang Yi dotingly touched the head of the little girl who spoke up for her father. Then, he turned to look at Shen Xinyu and said calmly, Xinyu, as you can see, I am no longer the person I was 5 years ago. Family, children, and my career are all responsibilities that I can't let go of in reality. I can't go back. Really, I hope you can understand. Shen Xinyu had already figured it out. He sighed and said, Yang Yi, it's my fault. I shouldn't have lost my temper at you. I really want you to go back to Battle Wolf, and your fighting skills are so good. But you're right. You have children and a wife at home. It's too irresponsible to let you go back. After all, 5 years have passed. Everyone's life has changed. We all have to look forward. Luo Zongxing patted Shen Xinyu on the shoulder. As long as our friendship is still there, it's enough. Papa, are we not quarreling anymore? She saw that the atmosphere had eased, so she whispered in her father's arms. Well, thanks to she's speaking up for me. Yang Yi pinched the little girl's nose. Then I'll go play with Xionair. I want to show her my new toy. The little girl smiled as if she had completed a big task. Yang Yi watched his daughter run away with Lon Xian, then he raised the glass in his hand. Master Luo is right. Although I'm no longer in Battle Wolf, I'll always be a member of Battle Wolf. With water instead of wine, I toast to everyone, to Battle Wolf. To battle Wolf. Luo Zongxing, Shan Xinyu, and Yu Xiaotian were all refreshed and raised the glasses in their hands. Gua Debao was not a member of Battle Wolf, but he also inexplicably felt his blood boil. He also raised his glass. To battle Wolf. Chapter 272. With the mission at hand, Yang Yi's comrades left in the afternoon. It was hard to meet and hard to part, but for the men, there was no lingering feeling. They just felt a little sad. They didn't know when they would see each other again. After the weekend, the boy who was almost thrown into the river by Yang Yi didn't come to the restaurant to cause trouble again, as if nothing had happened. Maybe he was really scared by Yang Yi. However, after this incident, Ding Xiang came over hesitantly the next day and lectured Yang Yi on some major principles. This honest girl felt that Yang Yi's way of dealing with this matter was too extreme and reckless. She was also worried that Yang Yi's actions would scare other customers and affect the restaurant's business. She was lucky to have met a boss like Yang Yi, who was very easygoing when faced with things that he didn't care about. Yang Yi not only didn't blame her for offending her superior, but also sincerely apologized and made a promise, although he wouldn't necessarily do so. Of course, this was just a small episode. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was late November. The biggest news these days was the press conference of the TV series Soldiers Assault in Jiangqing City. The famous director Chan Fengchen would be the director and producer. The current best-selling novel Soldiers Assault was adapted by a gold medal scriptwriter, and there was a newcomer as the lead. These gimmicks attracted many entertainment reporters from the film and television industry. Yang Yi was invited to attend this press conference, but he obviously didn't want to go. Chen Fengchen couldn't do anything about Yang Yi's indifferent personality. However, Yang Yi still watched the related media reports on TV. He mainly wanted to see how Su Sanduo looked like. In the media's camera, Geng Sha's ordinary face was smiling honestly, but it was just a smile. He was so nervous that his whole body was stiff and his forehead was sweating. When he answered the reporter's questions, he even trembled a little. Coupled with his thick accent, he often caused the audience to laugh. The media expressed their doubts about whether Geng Sha could play Su Sanduo well, but Yang Yi admired Geng Sha very much. This silly look was quite in line with the character of Su Sanduo, but he didn't know if it could be shown in the actual performance. After all, acting was another matter. Even if he acted as himself, he might not be able to act well. But at least the director, Chan Fengchen, didn't let him down. He found an actor with a similar image and temperament for the role, even if he wasn't famous. In addition to this matter, Yang Yi also learned that Murphy's I Came Across the Ocean to See You had indeed experienced a decline in results. After barely maintaining it for more than a week, it was once again pushed off the top of the list by Fireworks in the Heart. After all, it was only a single, and compared to the popular idol singer Yi Qing, Murphy's fanbase wasn't high enough. Once the novelty wore off, it was only natural for the sales to drop. Fortunately, I Came Across the Sea to See You was still on the list. Although its popularity had decreased, it could still be maintained for a while. Mo Fei had also flown to Shanghai, preparing to record Luo Xian's Jixin interview, and at the same time, bring a new song. Xian Jie, Murphy is already in the waiting room. I went over the script with her yesterday. Do you want her to wait off stage after she's done with her makeup? The assistant came over to report to Luo Xian, who was in the middle of doing her makeup. Luo Xian was different from other small hosts. Her time was precious, and she was also involved in the fashion industry. Therefore, her program basically didn't have any rehearsals. The program's director would provide her with some information about the invited guests, then communicate with her about the general problem. Then, there would be staff members who would pass it on to the invited guests. The rest was left to Luo Xian's free time. After all, with her rich experience, Luo Xian could easily handle all kinds of situations. Therefore, even without rehearsals, her program recording was very smooth. However, Luo Xian was more interested in today's invited guests. She waved her hand and said with a smile, "Let her wait in the waiting room." There's still a bit of time before we start shooting. I want to chat with her. A moment later, Luo Xin, who was done with her makeup, came to the waiting room. Looking through the glass window, she saw Murphy sitting quietly on the chair and reading some information. Mo Xiaowan, who was yawning beside her, was obviously ignored. Luo Xin stood outside for a few seconds as she carefully observed Murphy. Even with her experience, she couldn't help praising, "What a pure and innocent girl." Luo Xin, who was almost 20 years older than Murphy, called Murphy Miss, so there was nothing wrong with it. Luo Xin admired Murphy. She could tell that although Murphy looked cold and aloof on the outside, she was a humble and decent singer in her heart. When Luo Xin pushed the door open and entered, Murphy's performance confirmed her judgment. "Hello, Ms. Luo." Murphy stood up and bent over to shake hands with Luo Xin. Luo Xin was shorter than her, so Murphy took this into consideration. Although her expression was cold and her smile was faint, Luo Xin was satisfied with Murphy's attitude. "Murphy, is this the first time we've met?" Luo Xin smiled with her eyes narrowed. "Yeah, I've been looking forward to being on your show." Murphy nodded her head in response. Shrugging her shoulders, Luo Xin smiled. "You can't blame me for that. 5 years ago, I wanted to find an opportunity to invite you on my show, but you suddenly retired." Murphy was briefly stunned. She never expected that there would be such a story. Luo Xin maintained herself very well, and after putting on makeup, she looked like she was only in her 30s. Moreover, she spoke elegantly and amiably. Even if there was a generation gap between them, Mo Fei did not feel that there was any generation gap in communication. Moreover, her whole person exuded a unique charm, which was very impressive. Luo Xin winked at Murphy and smiled. "Murphy, I know the reason why you retired." Murphy's face changed. She was her reverse scale. Even Mo Xiaowan couldn't help standing up. "Haha, don't be nervous. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. If I'm such a blabbermouth, I would have already spread the news when I saw you and your child back then." After a brief pondering, Luo Xin gave a name. It was the city where Murphy's father's farm was located. "Although I recognized you when I saw you back then, I didn't dare to greet you since I wasn't familiar with you." Mo Fei probably took Cici out to go shopping and bask in the sun, and was seen by Luo Xin, who often went abroad. Only then did Murphy calm down. "I'm sorry, big sister Luo Xin. I lost my composure." "It's fine, I can understand. After all, it's still a child. It's just that I'm still a little surprised that when you were at the peak of your career, you suddenly retired because you had a child. Now that I think about it, do you feel that it's a pity?" Luo Xin asked curiously. Murphy smiled. "I did feel a little regretful when I left. But after the child was born, I felt that my happiness could cover up all my regrets. So I don't feel that it's a pity anymore." "I understand. I'm also a mother." Luo Xin patted Murphy's shoulder kindly. She suddenly said, "Then, when we're recording the show later, can I ask about this?" Murphy was briefly stunned before she pursed her lips. "I'm sorry, big sister Luo Xin. I'm not ready to go public yet." Nodding her head, Luo Xin smiled. "It's fine. It's just a pity that our show lacks a highlight. But don't worry, I won't tell anyone about it." "But Murphy, I've been in the entertainment industry for too long, and I've seen many similar situations. So there's something that I would like to give you," Luo Xin said gently. "If it's not a huge problem, it's best to go public. Furthermore, it's better to go public as soon as possible. It will be troublesome if the paparazzi expose it." Murphy looked at Luo Xin in a daze as she fell into deep thought. Chapter 273. Just as Murphy and Luo Xin were chatting, Guozi rode his new bicycle to the film club for a stroll after class. Since he had decided to be self-reliant, Guozi didn't ask Assistant Ruan or Big Brother Bin for help. Instead, He found an excuse to decline Gung Sha's kindness. However, their relationship was still very good. After Gung Sha returned from military training, he came to Zhongqing before the press conference. Guazi found him and the two of them got together. "Xiao Gua, you're here again today?" A senior passed by and smiled at Guazi, who was locking his bicycle. Guazi looked up and smiled brightly. "It's Brother Lei. How's your script? Is the second Miss wedding over? How can it be so fast?" The senior waved his hand. "All right, Xiao Gua, I just saw on the bulletin board that a production team is hiring a special type actor. They're looking for a fatter student actor. You might be suitable." "Really? Thank you, Brother Lei. I'll go take a look." Guazi's face was full of joy. He clasped his hands together and ran up quickly, as if the spot would be taken away if he was late. Actually, when he ran there breathlessly, there was no one in front of the bulletin board. At this time, everyone was either in class or dating. Only Guazi had the time to come over. Love Alley is looking for a special type actor. The actor is required to be fat and have good facial features. This role is for the second male lead and requires excellent acting skills. Those who are interested, please go to K5 room on the 3rd floor and register with Teacher Chiu. Maintain communication and wait for the audition notice. Guazi read it word by word and his face was full of joy. He slammed his fist into his palm, his face full of excitement as he thought, "Isn't this tailor-made for me? I'm a little chubby, slightly chubby, but I have good facial features. I'm also quite handsome, so I'm perfect for the second male lead. Excellent acting skills. I wonder what the director's specific requirements are. Forget it, let's go sign up first. We can't miss such a good opportunity." Guazi excitedly went upstairs. Just as his figure disappeared from the staircase, a beautiful figure walked out from the corner where she was hiding. She frowned and looked at Guazi. She hesitated for a moment, gritted her teeth, and waited for a while before following him. Guazi quickly found K5 and knocked on the door. "Good afternoon, Mr. Chiu." Teacher Chiu was a teacher in the Student Activity Center. Since Guazi often hung around here, she already knew him. She pushed her reading glasses and smiled. "So it's you, little Gua. What are you doing here today?" "I'm here to sign up. Isn't there a movie called Love Alley on the notice board below looking for special actors?" Hee, Teacher Chiu, look at my body shape. Isn't it quite unique?" Guazi gestured to himself. "Oh, which movie do you want to sign up for?" Okay, come and fill in the form," Teacher Chiu said cheerfully. "You said that when people get old, their memory gets worse. If I still remember, I'll definitely recommend you to the director of this movie. You're the most suitable child." It was Guazi's sweet mouth that made the old lady happy. Guazi first looked at the form carefully, then carefully filled in the information. This was more important. He even checked his phone number a few times, afraid that he would fill in the wrong number. If the director couldn't find him and was biased against him, then he would be in trouble. After confirming that there were no mistakes, Guazi put down his pen, raised his head, and respectfully handed the form back. "All right, Teacher Chiu, who is the director you mentioned just now?" "It's me." "Didn't you already know?" A cold voice came from behind, and Guazi quivered. So familiar. "Hey, look, I said that person and that person came." Teacher Chiu said with a smile. "Little Du, you haven't gone back yet?" Guazi turned around, and sure enough, Du Yuanlei's pretty face came into view. "Teacher Chiu, I came back for something." Du Yuanlei simply greeted Teacher Chiu. Actually, his heart still felt a little pain, but Guazi still forced a smile and raised his hand. "Senior Du, so you're the director of this movie?" "Hang, didn't you already know?" Du Yuanlei stared at him, her tone was very harsh. "Ah." Guazi was a little confused. "You're so disgusting. I already clearly rejected you, but you still pestered me," Du Yuanlei angrily said. "You followed me to the student center, and you want to shoot my movie? Let me tell you, it's impossible. After being scolded by her, Guazi finally understood what the misunderstanding was. Wait, Senior Du, you said that I followed you? Guazi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I haven't seen you for almost a month, right? Then I'd like to know, who did you find out that I was going to shoot a movie? Du Yuanlei sneered. I didn't. I saw it on the bulletin board downstairs. I didn't even know that you were the director of this movie. Guazi complained. Keep pretending, keep pretending. Du Yuanlei sneered. What the hell, how am I pretending? You rarely come to the film club, right? Guazi was a little annoyed. He was too lazy to use honorifics, and said, You can ask anyone in the film club, and you'll know that I, Little Gua, hang out here every day, and I've even shot a movie with some seniors. Teacher Chiu was a little confused by their quarrel, and said, I can confirm this for Little Gua. He does come to the film club often. Aren't you doing this to get close to me? Du Yuanlei asked. Guazi was so angry that he laughed. He looked at Du Yuanlei seriously and said, Senior Du, I did like you, but after you rejected me, I didn't pay attention to you anymore. And shooting a movie has always been my dream. You can choose not to believe me, but if you look it up on the internet, you'll know that I'm the top scorer of this year's college entrance examination in Jiangnan, but I didn't apply to any school. I only wanted to come to Jiangchuan because I want to shoot a movie, so I spent most of my time here, learning how to act. In the end, he smiled bitterly and sighed. But I guess you still don't want to believe me, and with our situation, you probably don't want me to shoot your movie no matter what. Forget it, I won't disturb your progress, I'll go. Guazi walked out of the door, leaving Du Yuanlei behind with a shocked face. Du Yuanlei looked at Guazi's lonely back, and she felt quite upset. She was stunned for a while before she gritted her teeth and chased after Guazi downstairs of the Student Activity Center. I shouldn't have said that to you, but you have to promise me that you won't chase after me anymore, and you won't have any feelings for me anymore, Du Yuanlei said while panting. What? I'll say it. Du Yuanlei caught her breath and said word by word, If you make such a promise, then I'll allow you to participate in my movie. Really? Guazi's face lit up with joy. Of course I still have to audition, it's useless if my acting skills aren't good enough. Du Yuanlei snorted. Don't worry, after you rejected me, I decided not to disturb you anymore. Guazi patted his chest. Feelings are consensual, I won't chase after you anymore. Du Yuanlei nodded lightly. Okay, come to the film club's classroom at noon tomorrow for the audition. Chapter 274. The recording of the show had already started. In the studio, Murphy and Luo Xin sat opposite each other, and several cameras were shooting them from different angles. So you were only 14 or 15 years old when you released your first album? Luo Xin asked with a smile. 14. Murphy nodded. Oh, that's very young. Why did you want to debut so early? Luo Xin asked. Mo Fei's answers were always concise and comprehensive, and it was easy for the conversation to become awkward. Fortunately, Luo Xin, as the host, had been using various methods to find something for Mo Fei to say and guide her to tell her own story. Because I like music. Mo Fei's answer was still very simple, but when she looked at Luo Xin's eyes, she continued, Sister Luo Xin, you're not quite right. I didn't debut at the age of 14, because that was the age when I released my first official album. Before that, I had arranged to release some single CDs or sing songs with other singers for the new year. When I was young, I also participated in some TV competitions. Luo Xin smiled and said, I see. Our Murphy has been a musical genius since she was young. I can't say that I'm a genius. I just learned earlier than others, and I was deeply influenced by my mother, Murphy said. Luo Xin turned to look at the camera and smiled. Let me introduce to some of the audience here. Murphy's mother is Miss Zhou Mengyu, a singer in the 70s in Harbor City. Not famous, but Luo Xin didn't say it out loud. We all know that Murphy's first album's results were not bad, and you were nominated for Harbor City's Newcomer of the Year. But why didn't you continue to develop in Harbor City? Why did you choose to come to China instead? Luo Xian asked. Because I didn't really win the Newcomer of the Year award. Later on, my development didn't go well. At that time, Sister Ling, who had just founded Tian Mei, felt that my singing had potential, so she brought me to China, Murphy said casually. The real reason was not only that. After Murphy lost the award, some people in the company questioned her. They felt that Murphy relied on her mother to get the company's resources, which became an excuse for those people to attack the music director. Of course, this rumor wasn't baseless. Murphy's mother did have a good relationship with the company's music director at that time, so Murphy's entry into the music industry was quite smooth, and she almost won the Newcomer of the Year award. However, Murphy was actually very hard-working. Murphy, who was only 14 or 15 years old, could not stand the gossip of these people. She used indifference to isolate herself from these people. She did not care about those scheming things and worked hard to make her own music. With Murphy's sharp personality, she was naturally isolated by the whole company after the change of music director and she lost her backing. For 2 years in a row, she had no chance to stand out. This difficult situation continued until Niu Meiling appeared. Niu Meiling, who saw Murphy's potential, brought her to China. In response, Luo Xian asked, "So in Tian Mei, in the mainland's music industry, you're starting from scratch. We all know that the first few years will be difficult. Do you have any unforgettable stories that you'd like to share with the audience?" However, Murphy was very straightforward. She thought about it and said, "Difficult? Not very difficult. I think it's okay. Because my father asked us to speak Mandarin at home, my Mandarin was not bad when I first came, and no one treated me as a singer from Harbor City." This was a bit awkward. Fortunately, Luo Xian was experienced. She smiled and said, "Then, Murphy, do you remember the first Chinese song you sang after coming to China?" Just like this, Luo Xian slowly sorted out Murphy's singing career from the beginning to her retirement. Then she asked, "What was the reason? After 5 years of seclusion, you chose to come back and start from scratch again." In fact, Murphy had answered this question many times when she released her comeback album a few months ago. However, at that time, her words were modified by the company's public relations. This time, Murphy wanted to speak her mind. "Because I still like singing. Although I haven't been on the stage for more than 5 years, I still want to be on it. This has been my wish since I was a child. So, no matter how difficult it is to start again, I want to come back and continue singing." Murphy said, "Indeed, we saw that the results of your comeback album were not ideal. It's not an exaggeration to say that it was a fiasco. However, we are very happy to see that after more than 2 months, you have returned to the public with a new song, Coming Across the Sea to See You." As Luo Xian's voice fell, the audience burst into applause. "To be honest, I was very emotional when I heard your song." "Murphy, do you know why?" Luo Xian asked with a smile. "Why?" "Because after so many years, listening to you sing, Coming Across the Sea to See You, it's like hearing you sing Strangers in the past. It's still the familiar and beautiful voice, the familiar and sad mood, it's still you, the familiar and beautiful Mo Fei. It's been 5 years, but you haven't changed at all." Luo Xian said emotionally. Murphy's calm face was faintly touched. A trace of mist floated in her eyes. She said softly, "Thank you, Sister Luo Xian. Can you tell us how you have maintained such a good voice and singing after so many years of retirement?" Luo Xian asked. "Because although I have left the music industry, I still maintain the same training every day as when I was working," Murphy said simply. In fact, in the script this was the key. Luo Xian tried hard to guide Murphy. "Day after day? Year after year? Then how did you persist?" Murphy only remembered now. She followed Luo Xian's words and said, "It's because the dream of music is still there. I haven't given up." Very well said. Because of the dream, Murphy has come all the way to where she is now. Although there have been many ups and downs, she has always persevered. I also believe that Murphy will succeed, just like before you retired. One day, you will stand at the peak of the music industry and stand on the stage that you desire the most. Luo Xian said with a smile. After being emotional, Luo Xian suddenly became mischievous. In the camera, she was like a young person. She blinked her eyes playfully. Murphy, I have said so many good things about you. Shouldn't you sing a new song for everyone today? Murphy didn't know how to react to Luo Xian's trick. It seemed that the script shouldn't be so sudden. It's rare for Jixin interview to come. You can't sing an old song here, right? You can't sing Coming Across the Sea to See You either. I heard that you are preparing a new album. All 12 songs were written by Mu Ziyong for you. Moreover, they are all excellent songs. If you don't sing a new song today, the audience won't agree. Luo Xian laughed. Murphy understood. She smiled gently and said, if that's the case, then I will sing a new song for everyone. This song is also in line with the content of my conversation with Sister Luo Xian tonight. The lyrics are also written from my heart. Then what are we waiting for? Let's get to the segment that we are looking forward to the most. Music. Thank you, Sister Luoxin. I hope everyone likes First Dream. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.